Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hansen, joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hi there.
Welcome, sir. Andrew Reiner.
Hello.
And Dan Tech.
And we got a real big show today.
Do you mean that?
I do mean that.
Why do you say that?
Because we're talking about cool games, cool people.
And so, normally we talk about, hey, these games are out. Let's rotate a bunch of fools in here, rotate around, talk all about it. This week, I think it's actually an exciting show.
I was being completely serious.
Okay,
as opposed to other Game Informer shows.
Yeah.
I think most of them are good. This one has a chance to be great because we're talking about some big trips that we went on, some, in theory, some exclusive details on some games and studios. So what we're talking about, Kyle Hilliard and I went to Game Freak, the developers of the Pokemon series. The only Pokemon series that counts. We went over to Japan for it, and we're going to talk all about that visit. It should be exciting.
Yeah, and we went, I guess we can get on to this later, but we have been deeper into Game Freak than any Western publication ever has.
It's a cool. Funny qualifier.
What does that mean?
That means that every other Western publication who's ever been to Game Freak has never gone past their lobby, where we actually went into the development floor,
walked
all that.
around.
We'll get into all that.
Yeah, we'll talk all about it. Then we're going to talk about Call of Duty World War II, which is our new cover story, Dan Tag.
It sure is.
Written by you.
That it was.
So Jeff Cork and you and myself went out to Sledgehammer Games. The developers' last game they worked on was Advanced Warfare, which we all enjoyed a lot, and talked about World War II for several days straight.
We did.
It's basically the same vibe as the Pokemon trip.
A little different, probably.
A little bit different. But we'll talk all about that. We've played Zombies.
We have had hands-on with Zombies.
Yes,
Pretty
a lot of
exciting
details
stuff,
there.
Yeah.
And then, let's see, what else are we going to talk about? Maybe a little bit of LawBreakers. Dantec, you've been playing that?
I absolutely have been playing the hell out of it.
Okay, all right, looking forward to it. And then some great community emails. Then back half of this show, it only gets better. It gets better and better through the course of this thing.
I don't think it can.
Absolutely. We're talking to some folks who do a podcast called 84 Play. There's a localization company in Japan called 84. So it's a complicated setup, but let's try and do it, right? So years and years ago, John Ricciardi and eventually Mark MacDonald, former game journalist, they moved over to Japan, started a localization company. That's 84. They went on to work on translating such games as like Fire Emblem Awakening, Metal Gear Rising, Nier Automata, most recently
Shadows of the Damned.
Shadows of the Damned, we just talked about this morning.
Mighty Number 9.
There we go.
Ooh.
And now Mark MacDonald has branched off and he's working with enhanced games on Rez and Rez Infinite, which just came out on Steam. So we talk a little bit about that. But we talk about their podcast as well, which is one of my favorite gaming podcasts, 84 Play. And then also talk to John Ricciardi, who's still at 84, because they recently not only are publishing but are developing the console port of Undertale as well. So we talk about all that stuff, a lot of good Japan talk, and it's kind of the crux of the interview centers around Kyle was there, he knows. But the crux of it is just kind of like, what is it like to be a fan of Japanese games your entire life and then actually pack up, move to Japan, take the plunge that so many nerds want to take, and just immerse yourself in this sea of amazing Japanese developers.
Nerd.
That's all I heard there.
Going full weeb, as
It's
they
going
say.
full weeb, so it's a great chat. So stay tuned to the back half of the show for that. But for now, Pokemon. Kyle, you know the exact date. How long have we been talking about maybe going over to Game Freak and making a feature about the creation of Pokemon?
1998.
It really feels that way.
Well, for me, personally, conversations for this trip started December 2016. And then we ended up going in July.
Yes.
So it was a lot of emails going back and forth planning this whole thing.
So it sounds so exciting, but you're just banking on this entire thing falling through. But then eventually it's like,
months.
Hey, Kyle, we're getting on a plane.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to go into Game Freak. I think it's actually going to happen.
I still don't know if it's going to happen. I don't have the print issue in my hand yet, so it could still just fall apart.
That is true. So you wrote like a huge feature for the magazine talking about history of Game Freak, what it's like to actually develop the Pokemon games, and then you also did something which I thought was way too ambitious and took up way too much time, where you went down every single mainline Pokemon game. Like, tell me about this, tell me about this, tell me about this.
Yeah, and I liked how it came out. We got a lot of good stories out of that, I feel like.
Yeah, especially, we're going to have a blown out version of that, a chunk of that interview going on the site later this month, but talking about Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, and apparently how it almost killed Masuda. It was so tough.
Yeah, like that was the one that was definitely the hardest, it sounds like, because he was watching the Pokemon fad like die in front of him, basically, is kind of how he described it. Like it was becoming unpopular.
Yeah.
People were saying Pokemon's dead, why are they making a new one? And he had to go to the hospital at some point. He said get a camera stuck down his throat during the development of Ruby and Sapphire.
Voluntarily.
Yeah. And then Omori, who directed Sun and Moon, who we also talked to extensively, that was actually when he came on board with Pokemon to start working on Pokemon, and then he made the remake of Ruby, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and he was just like, Masuda was almost dying in a hospital while we were trying to make this game, and I was just like, hey, I get to work on Pokemon. This is exciting.
What a thrill. It was so nice just to put like faces and personalities to those developers. I mean, we did a game club on this podcast last year. Dantek, you were on it, talking about Pokemon Sun and Moon, and just like every complaint or everything we loved about those games, just to be like, okay, this is the rumors developed. I feel like I understand where these guys are coming from a little bit more now.
Yeah, and like little things like the trials, which were a big part of Sun and Moon, like came very late to the point where like they couldn't, like Omori had to work with the tools that he could as like the director. Like he couldn't get artists to come in and help him make new assets and stuff like that. He had to design the trials late in development just based on like writing and whatever he could figure out.
Which is why they're so weird. Where there's those weird little games where you're trying to match. God, who is it? It's like Marowak's dancing, and like one is a little bit different. And how bizarre and different those are is like because they didn't have the programmers to do something.
Yeah, like he couldn't. It's like, well, I can't animate this character. I could probably put him in poses. Like that's kind of like how those trials came about. And I thought they were cool. Like I like the trials in Sun and Moon. So
I think the way to go for this whole thing. And by the way, you guys are welcome to chime in, but I want this to be snark-free. I want this to be informative, a journey through Game Freak. I assume there's Pokemon fans that care about this kind of thing. This episode's all about deep dives.
Jeez.
Well, take me outside the building.
It's called the Carrot Tower.
Which it was named by children, apparently. There was a contest to name the building, and they called it the Carrot Tower.
Tried making a Kakarot Tower joke, and no one
I got it.
All right,
it's also carrot in English, which is weird. It's not,
it is odd.
Yeah.
But the strangest part, no Pokestop for Pokemon Go.
Nope.
Is it orange?
It's orangish.
It's orangish.
Okay,
yeah.
well, that makes sense.
But no, there's no reference to Game Freak in the lobby, really. And like I said, I think there were 3 Pokestops in Pokemon Go, and none of them called out Game Freak in any way. Like, they just want to quietly sit there and make Pokemon, and not be bothered.
That's smart. That's very smart, by the way.
So we were led upstairs. We saw a fantastic little lobby area, which is where we did a lot of the video interviews, which are going to be going up on the site. Mm-hmm. One of them's already out there. And then the most exciting... Oh, go for it.
Tell me about the lobby.
Well, there are a bunch of Pokemon toys.
Yeah,
well, just stuff.
I mean, you can't just call it fantastic and then walk by.
It wasn't really. This was actually a meeting room to the side. It's like their museum when they have like little figures of. They said they think that it's every Pokemon. They weren't sure because there's more than 800 at this point. But Masuda, Junichi Masuda, producer, director, composer for Pokemon, co-founder of Game Freak, he was really like unsure. He's like, yeah, I think we have every Pokemon in here.
Did you guys take one?
Glass
I don't
case.
want to get into it. But
Anyway, so then we're led into the actual development studio, which was the most exciting part. And their lobby has a huge rotating globe. They say to remind themselves that, hey, we're making Pokemon for a global audience.
We're on Earth.
It's a dark room. There's like, it's really dark. The Game Freak logo is lit up. The globe is lit up. And then off to the side, there's like one chair. And I think there's a phone, right?
It's a red phone, the emergency phone.
And there's like lighting on the floor, so it's kind of ominous.
It is ominous, weird. And then it gets more confusing because as you go on, then it's a shoes-off office, which is different. I've been in a handful of Japanese studios. I've never seen this, and they say, interestingly, that it's a reference or at least an homage, or I don't know what you'd call it exactly, but to the fact that the Pokemon series and Game Freak started in general, like with people kind of homebrewing, crafting, developing games in their basement, and it was a relaxed environment. And so they want to carry that forward, even though it's a 100-person team at this point, by, hey, shoes off, put on these sandals, let's all have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like Shenmue. Going at home in Shenmue. You always take off your shoes.
I mean, it is like Japanese culture, but he specifically called it out as being like, it seemed like it wasn't necessarily a typical thing to have to take off your shoes to enter the studio.
Absolutely. So then we walk in the studio. What was your first impression, Kyle?
It was more interesting than I thought it would be in the sense that there was more like toys and more Pokemon stuff. There were plushes on everyone's desk. I really, I was expecting a very sterile office because every image I've seen of a Japanese developer, you guys, I know Dan, like you guys went from software and
it's very vanilla.
From Software had a couple of knickknacks. I mean, pretty sterile, but there were a few things.
But that's what I expected, and there was more like fun stuff going on than I expected. I didn't see any like big statues or anything, but it seems like everyone had Pokemon plushes on their desk and lots of toys.
I saw like Undertale toys. Like it had a lot more personality.
Huh.
Yeah, they had like a shelf with a bunch of games that people could check out and stuff.
Yeah, it was like kind of like a library, and then the middle area where they like eat lunch and stuff like that. They had lots of toys and board games and things like that for people to just like play with.
So I got to know, in a shoes off environment, do you up your sock game? Do people
Everyone
have
had wild socks.
Yeah, I mean, was that the case? Like, I would think you'd want to
know what?
just be wearing white with the red stripe on.
That's the kind of detail you should have taken into account, Kyle, when you're writing this feature.
Come
What
on.
Masuda's socks looked like.
I did notice that some people did have socks and they weren't wearing the slippers. Those seemed like the troublemakers of the studio.
Wild man. But let's actually get into interesting stuff, right? So it's about a 100-person team, and it was like, hey, this half of the studio, because it's kind of shaped like a big horseshoe, and the middle part is the lunch area and stuff, and they're like, hey, this half of the team, so roughly 50 people, this is where Ultra Sun and Moon is being developed. And so that's where we spent most of our time. We were not allowed to go to the other area. So Game Freak, they always have their side projects, whether it's Tempo the Badass Elephant or Harmonite or Giga Wrecker, which we talked about on the podcast a while back. Yeah. And so who knows if that second half of the studio was all outside projects other than Pokemon, or if that was largely the Switch game.
Oh, I hope so. I hope it's
so
a Switch
too.
game. Yeah.
I mean, there were Switches on the desk in the Ultra Sun and Moon area, but again, unclear. It's like, is that a dev unit, or is that just so that people can play Breath of the Wild during lunch? But still exciting to see a Switch in the Game Freak office. That's enough to get me excited.
Yeah. There was also, I guess, in that initial meeting room, they literally had every console, which kind of shouldn't be too surprising, but kind of surprised me. Like any console that you can think of, like they just had a huge pile of them in the corner of their meeting room, which was kind of cool.
You just wanted pure Nintendo stuff?
I don't know. I didn't expect to see a lot of like PlayStations and Xboxes and stuff, but they're always open to developing for the consoles. Like they've never been shy about that.
It was definitely one of the biggest takeaways from the trip. Is it was really exciting to see just how much, I don't know if exciting is the right word, but how much daylight there is between Game Freak and Nintendo. Like it came up several times throughout the interviews of like, oh, Nintendo, they're just a friend, they're a partner, but really like we're clearly a very hungry and to see themselves as a very independent studio. Even when talking about like the different features throughout the years, making different Pokemon games, it was fun how Masuda would occasionally bring up, like for example, Diamond and Pearl, the first DS Pokemon game. I guess Nintendo was telling them like, hey, everybody's going to be using the stylus on their DS. So they have to design it for the stylus. And then Masuda was like, I don't think people are going to use that stylus. People are going to use their fingers. So we need to make it look like tactile and like huge buttons for battling and stuff on the bottom screen. Yeah. And Nintendo's like, no, they're really going to use the stylus. Like, I don't think so. And it turns out they were right.
Yeah, it's like after the games came out, I went and saw people playing it outside using their finger. Like no one's using their stylus, And it was interesting to hear him be like, I mean, it's not butting heads with Nintendo, but you'd think if like, Nintendo is not even necessarily your boss, which is something we got into is like, how does this structure work? If Nintendo is telling you to do something and they're willing to be like, nah, we're going to do it our own way. Thanks for your input, but we're going to do it this way.
Even to the point of Nintendo pushing 3D so much, and then with Pokemon X and Y, only the battles were available in actual stereoscopic 3D. Yeah. It's like, we just don't think people are going to use 3D that much.
And we asked him about that, and he was just kind of like, yeah, we talked to Nintendo, and, they understood after we talked to them for a while.
One thing I noticed, like, after reading your article, Kyle, but seeing it in the videos is a lot of the rooms you went into were very different. Like the meeting rooms are all kind of defined by a theme, right? Can you kind of go into
talk about that? Like there's 4 meeting rooms. One we've already described, which is kind of the museum. Hanson, you'll have to help me with the names.
Love it.
They were named after planets, right?
Specifically, Holst Symphony of the Planets. Like that was the whole idea. So we have like Jupiter, Saturn, Gaia, and Venus.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So, and Gaia was a room that was like had a big window facing out. They're pretty high up.
Beautiful view,
and tons of plants in there, and a huge fish tank too.
And the idea was that the fish die and teach everybody empathy was pointed out. Also, the idea of the plants.
Yeah, they did.
They did totally say that. Yeah. And then with plants, like, it takes a long time to raise these plants. We want them to be real plants. We want the developers to take care of them. It's like managing a Pokemon series for the long term. It's like game development. You need to nurture these things.
Yeah, they want them to take care of the fish too, and not just kill them.
What the hell? What are you talking about with the fish? They wanted to see the fish die?
No, they're supposed to take care of them, but if they die,
it teaches people empathy. Is what they pointed out.
Because they take care of all that. They take care of the plants. They take care of the fish. The staff does. They don't hire people to come in and take care of the tank or anything like that, is what he told us.
Absolutely. The most exciting meeting room. There are other meeting rooms and stuff. There's one called Venus. The Venus room. We have video of it. It's hot pink.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Seems like a teenage girl's bedroom or something. There's like a chandelier and like a desk mirror.
It's like a Barbie playhouse. Yeah. And they were big on like, this was designed by the women on this thing. This was designed by them. Like,
Just so
hey, it's
you know.
cool, man. It's cool. Like, there's like stuffed animals
It's a
everywhere.
very comfortable room.
It's an amazing little bizarre
Just
meeting
next to
room.
the kitchen. It's like, oh, here's a bright pink room you can have a meeting in if you want.
Yeah.
And then the last room was probably the least exciting. It was just like it was heavily mirrored. Like there were mirrors all over the wall, and the mirrors were all kind of angled to point to a big TV in the middle of the room. And the idea behind that room was like, this is where we go if we want to show off something on video, because like your attention, because of the mirrors, is drawn to the screen in the middle of the room.
Yeah, absolutely. What were your big takeaways from the overall visit, spending this much time with Game Freak?
That's like a big question.
I know.
They were open, like more open to our questions than I thought they would be. I kind of like, same with the office being, I assumed it would be very sterile.
Yeah.
I thought they would be very closed off, and like just because of our experience with Japanese developers in general, like I thought I would be like, so, development of Ruby and Sapphire, tell me about that. And they would be like, well, that was a tough one, but we stuck it out and we got the game out and it was very successful. It sold 1 million+ copies. But to hear him go into stories that were like, oh god, that game almost killed me. Everyone said Pokemon was going to die. I had to go to the hospital, and like, and he's like, and then when the game finally came out, I had a nightmare the night before that it was a failure, and then I went into the stores the next day, and there were lines, and I could not be more relieved. And it was cool to hear stories like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I did not expect him to tell me about the time he had a nightmare the night before Ruby and Sapphire came out.
Yeah, and as far as like concrete details in Ultra Sun or the Switch game, I mean, obviously they were very guarded about those types of things, but they were more game, especially it's always amazing in video. Just like, hey, we're going to barge into your studio. Hope you're cool on video. And they were really nice. We have a video that just went up with them talking about like the pressure behind making the Switch game.
Yeah.
I dug through a bunch of old forum posts and presented them to those guys, and they were incredibly cool reading off those forum posts and reacting to those.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And then one of the coolest videos we have coming up later is we asked like, hey, do they have any old dev documents from the original games, anything along those lines? And we showed up, and it's a table filled with like every piece of like
notebooks,
paperwork,
concept art, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and so there's a video. It's raw, it's weird, but it's them just like leafing through all these old pages and offering some incredible insight into the development of the original games, and then almost every Pokemon game from then.
It was funny because with like Red and Green and Blue and Gold and Silver, he was very much like, I wish we had more stuff for these games, but we were really just like improvising during development that whole time. Like we didn't take a lot of notes. Like now we have a process that we go through, and we're very, it takes about 3 years now. We have it down, but he's like, but for Red and Blue, I mean, we were just all that stuff's gone because it was all just we're making it up as
they're
we went
faxing
along.
it around, or even they said like there's not really too much great old concept art because they would just design the Pokemon within the Game Boy hardware. And so we asked, because it was an interesting thread that popped up on Reddit a while ago talking about like the evolution of Pokemon eyes. And this is geeky, but we're here to get geeky, right?
Yeah.
Originally they were much more kind of Toriyama, angular, pointed eyes, and now they're all round and cutesy. And so we asked about that basic idea, and he's like, well, you couldn't do circles with the pixel limitation on the Game Boy, so we had to make them angular.
Yeah,
and there was no concept art. It was just
they were
really
just drawing them
in
into the game with the pixels. So
that's why Machop looks like such a disaster.
Going back to some of those sprites is pretty rough. But
one of the most interesting things outside of the office itself, like those meeting rooms, I thought was like the coolest part of that article. But the
funny.
well, I mean, seriously, there's not a lot of detail in the games there, but it's like when you asked them about creating the Pokemon themselves.
Yeah.
I thought that was very cool, and like they have a style guide and stuff like that. I was waiting for you to follow that up with like talking about Klefki and something like that, which feels like it's way out of bounds of what
because
they were saying.
They wanted everything to make sense somewhat within evolutionary biology, and it's like, well, okay.
I think we did, if I remember correctly, I think I did ask just sort of almost jokingly about Klefki, like because one of my questions was like, do you ever throw out Pokemon designs? Yeah, and he was like, no, if something's like, it never gets past the starting line if it's too ridiculous, and if there's something wrong with it, we adjust it along the way. And I think the closest I got to asking about Klefki was like, and that's how we arrive at things like Klefki? And he was like, yep.
We posted a feature today on Thursday. It's on the site, talking about like most of the interviews we have about how they design Pokemon, the process of all that stuff. But it was funny because while he was talking about this, he went on this whiteboard. It was the best thing to ever have during an interview. It was just a giant whiteboard, especially for Japanese developers. Like, hey, here's what I'm trying to explain. Here's how the town's connected. Here's how the forests were coded back in the day.
Here's who owns Pokemon. That's another thing that he had to write out.
Oh, I want to get into that later for sure. And so then as he's explaining how they design Pokemon, he's like, we would never just design like a cat and then like, hey, the evolution, it's like a cat with 3 heads. And so he drew this like 3-headed cat, and it was a very silly looking cat face.
Very simple.
But then later on in the day, when we were going through all the old design documents, I noticed that cat head is appearing everywhere. So I feel like Masuda has like a template. Yeah, you know, Pokemon. It's this thing with a cat head.
Yeah.
And he just like draws constantly.
The other thing I liked about that cat head conversation was he was talking about evolution specifically. He's like, yeah, we try to make the evolutions interesting, make sense. It's the sort of thing you jump to immediately is like, well, if it evolves, let's just give it an extra head, and then when it evolves again, you give it 3 heads. And
don't mention Doug Trio, by the way.
Yeah,
but go on.
And it was funny because he was like, I'm trying to think about how he said that we first started off of like, yeah, we don't really throw out Pokemon designs. We, pretty much everything ultimately kind of makes it into the game. And then he drew this 3-headed cat thing as an example of like what they wouldn't do. And he kind of looked at it and he was like, if I tried to pitch this, they would probably say no, that we can't put this in the game.
I'm sorry, Mr. Masuda-san.
I'm sorry, Mr. Co-founder.
But now 3 keys on a key ring. Yeah, it's good to go.
Isn't like the Doduo or whatever that bird thing? Isn't that literally
That's
one?
also,
pretty much.
There's a couple instances, especially in the early days, of hey,
they're
let's
getting
just
away
add a
from
head.
it. They're getting away from it.
Yeah, that's a cop out. My impression of Masuda in general is he's much more techie than I thought, and you can
he's
you'll
a programmer.
See it. Yeah, at heart, and you'll see it in the archives video that when I was talking about music, I think back in the day, and then he goes into like drawing sine waves and stuff on the board. Like that's his passion, to the point that he can't play piano. Like that was one of our features we wanted. Is like it'd be awesome just to have Masuda sit down, play some classic themes, just like raw video. I'd really be into that. And he's like, I can't really do that, but I can draw sine waves of like how we program the original growls.
I love. One of the things they showed us was where they do the music, which is this tiny little closet-sized room that has a couple keyboards in there. And he's, showing us around. He's speaking Japanese. Yeah. Our translator, who's great, is like, not grabbing everything Masuda says, but is telling us. And so he's like, yeah, this is where we do the music. And he steps in there and he puts on headphones and starts touching the keyboards, and Hanson films him. And then he gets up and he gets out and he's just like, I actually can't play keyboard. I just wanted to pantomime it for you guys, So I loved that. I thought that was really hilarious.
Yeah. So the most exciting thing, obviously, they're working on the first real console RPG for Switch. Do you feel like you left that studio knowing any more about the direction for Pokemon on the Switch?
No.
Let's speculate.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't be so abrupt. It was interesting to me. Like we did talk. We were able to talk to them about Switch on camera, and they were talking about how excited they were to develop for it. So I do get a sense of like. We talked to them about like how they make games generally and how that might apply to a console game. But I liked when I was doing interviews off camera, we were talking about like how come we've never had a console game, and they're like, well, mobility is important and being able to connect to other players is hugely important, and that's
trading's so important. We can't imagine a game ever being released with the Pokemon name where they don't have trading, especially after it's been out for a year, like Pokemon Go. It'd just be unthinkable.
No, it would never happen.
Shade.
Yeah.
And so my response was just like, oh, so now since the Switch is out, that was the line that we were able to cross. Is like now you can connect to someone standing next to you with a console.
Yeah.
And he just went, yes.
But
and I was like, is that all we can talk about with the Switch? And one of the PR guys was like, yeah, I'll just let you guys know. That's pretty much all we can say.
But then we did a whole video about it, and they were very cool.
Yeah,
and the overall vibe from that team is like they're nervous. They understand there's a lot of pressure on them, and they understand that. But we have a video going up on Friday, I believe, because a lot of people took away from that Switch video. There's one of the forum commenters that they responded to. It said, like, all I want is like an open-ish world with Pokemon. And they say, like, hey, we're making that game. So some people have taken that as confirmation that, like, oh, the Switch game's going to be open world. I really don't think that's the case.
I would not make
People
that assumption.
don't do that.
Absolutely not. Especially there's a video going up on Friday where we explicitly ask about like the Breath of the Wild Pokemon game. Would you ever consider making a game with that much freedom? And he really is not into the idea. He's like, I don't think Pokemon works that open of a format. I don't know what players would be doing. Which the obvious rebuttal is, hey, going out and catching Pokemon and taking down gyms. It seems like the structure's right there.
Going into caves, like dungeons to get rare ones. That sounds
and even
awesome.
says, like, I think that's what fans may want, but it's not where we think the formula works best, which, hey, it's their game.
Which you can extrapolate if we're going to, theorize about what the Switch version could be. I think it's just going to be a pretty traditional Pokemon game that will look nice.
Also, other things that we know, we're talking about, like, generational leaps. And at some point he said, like, yeah, like, every time we cross a generational threshold, we need like 3 years of development to make the next Pokemon game. So in theory, Sun and Moon, right, came out 2016. Ultra might slow down development a little bit, but if you go by that math, 2019 at the earliest for Pokemon on the Switch.
Well, yeah, Nintendo already walked back I guess kind of said it's not might not come 2018. It's like on the fence, right?
I could see 2019.
And I think we asked them about expanding the team, right? You asked them about that, I believe. And they were kind of like, yeah, that's currently happening, which is also another like qualifier of like, it's probably going to be a while before we see
Well, to be fair with that, though, they said that like Pokemon X and Y, they ballooned up to 120 developers. And he's like, we don't want to go beyond that. He's like, it's too many cooks in the kitchen type of analogy.
Yes.
So I think they're pretty focused on keeping it a relatively small team for, in theory, how ambitious this game should be. And I pray to God is. Other things asked about like them changing up the gym formula and like other things with Pokemon Sun and Moon. And they're like, it's kind of a one-time thing, but we noticed people received it well.
Yeah, it's not a promise that that's what future Pokemon's going to look like.
Right.
One-time thing, though. I mean, that says not again then.
Well, that was kind of in the
They're
question.
being ambiguous, because I think, honestly, I don't think they were even being coy. I think that they're just that early in figuring things out that they're I don't know, it could be in there.
Did you get the impression that they're actively in development at this point? I mean, you're saying they're staffing up. I mean, obviously they're concepting stuff like that the whole time.
There was another. I mean, was there another full floor that we didn't see? Right?
There were some other. I don't know about they were full.
Okay.
But there were other areas, and so it was unclear if they were in development at this point. I would imagine they at least have a pretty hard pre-production team going with it. But it was more people than you think working on Ultra Sun and Moon. But as far as changing things up, this is all speculation. But I left the studio thinking, I think a remake is more likely than I previously thought for the Switch game, like a Red and Blue remake.
Well, that's always been even on the Pokemon Game Club, walking away from Sun and Moon before Switch was announced, or like the Switch version announced, that was kind of what I thought they would do. Is like the next Pokemon game is going to be a remake of Red and Blue because of the seeds planted at the end of the
It hits it hard. And so I asked Omori, the director of Sun and Moon, about that exact thing of like, why are you guys hitting Kanto so hard at the end of Pokemon Sun and Moon? And his answer was, this is a pitch perfect impersonation, by the way. He said, that was really not connecting it so much as it was an expression of the theme of meeting new people and departure, meeting and separating, short fleeting relationships. The departure back to Kanto was something we wanted to express, and that was how we did it at the end there. And I said, a tease of things to come? And they laughed a lot and said, I don't know, I can't say anything about that. And this is one of those things where you always read too much into the questions you ask personally.
Yeah.
But like as I was asking that, I was then looking at Masuda, and he was giving me some shifty eyes.
Shifty eyes,
look,
Masuda.
This is the speculation where we're going down to shifty eyes.
Speculation.
But they also asked about like, hey, how do you feel about remakes going forward? Do you feel like you've gotten them all out of your system? Because they've done a fair amount at this point. And the quote from Masuda was, I don't think we're focused exclusively on making all new stuff. I think it's important. The nostalgia factor is one thing. To give these memories, this content, another chance to shine for new players. And as a player myself, I enjoy that kind of thing as well. Even in music, I feel like when a musician sang a song that was really popular and they came back years later and did a rearrangement of it, a new take on it, I really enjoy that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a similar thinking.
Yeah, and you can apply that generally as like they like doing the remakes. You know, they don't feel like they're.
And what else? Are they going to do Diamond and Pearl?
No, I mean you're probably right. If they pick one, it's going to go all the way back, and
especially like the console debut. Why not kind of like reboot everything?
If they pick one, it will be. You're right. I think they'll go back to the world of Red and Blue, but it's not going to be a remake.
Don't think so.
I don't think so.
Maybe like a sequel, sort of.
Even
that's a great idea too.
Like even jazzing it up, it would be too archaic. Even if they did, change some things.
Well, I mean, they could just keep the plot, so to speak. I mean, you're just.
Well, the same
you're
Pokemon.
Red, you go through, Pokemon, you go through the gyms.
I mean, they already did a sequel to Red and Blue with Gold and Silver going back, and so it would just be a continuation of that world. I mean,
my concern would be
my bet.
Just brought back Red and Blue, right? And then Pokemon Go was just Red and Blue, basically, for the first gen. I mean, that's a lot there, but that is the most popular generation of Pokemon.
And in Sun and Moon, they kind of redid so many of those Pokemon with like Alola evolutions and stuff. Yeah. They know that it's the most popular, and I feel like they would want to take the safest bet with the first big Switch game. Also, big takeaway is just in the Switch video, they kept talking about Switch sales, which struck me as a little bit strange. Then you think they've been working in the handheld base for so long, where they sell so many handhelds at Nintendo. Like think about that 3DS base shifting over to Switch. They seemed a little bit reticent, like, we want everyone to buy these games and to buy Switches before the game comes out. We normally aren't at launch. And that kind of ties into another point, Kyle, that I want to talk to you about, where it seems like, I feel like if we went back, I would want to focus more on the business side of what exactly is going on. The Pokemon IP is split between all these different companies, and they made a reference to how poor the company was when they were developing Gold and Silver. That like with all the success of Pokemon Red and Blue, not enough money was getting back to Game Freak. I'd imagine because that pie is sliced in so many different ways.
Yeah. Well, the weird thing about that, though, is that pie was not sliced so much back then, right? I mean, I guess it was Creatures
and
Game Freak
Nintendo.
and Nintendo.
Right.
Yeah, they were working right after they made Red and Green, and then Blue and Red for North America, and then Yellow. But I guess at that point they had to work on other games between those two. Like it was a game that never came out in America. That was like Masuda was working on that, and then when he was finished with that game and they were making sales, that's when he was able to move over to Gold and Silver.
Right.
And really kind of from our perspective, like talking to him, it sounded like it was kind of a mess when he first got in there, and like they didn't even have the region decided until Masuda came on to like figure things out.
Well, I'm sure just the concept of locking down a region for every release was so new to them. They didn't even see it that way at that point. It was just, I guess Kanto is kind of based off this, but whatever. Yeah. I feel like we asked this question several times. It might have just been me about like, I don't understand how Gold and Silver was so ambitious, because that game is so big. And when you guys were strapped for cash, development was tough. Why swing so hard? And just kept saying like, I guess we just gave it our all, did a good job.
The exact quote that I have is, that was all of us just trying our best, I guess. Like the idea of like scaling it down never occurred to them or something.
But then,
it's very
including
strange.
Kanto, they just said like, we had more memory, double the memory. So therefore we thought, we should put double the space in there, I guess.
Yeah, and also just while we're on the topic of Gold and Sun, or Gold and Silver, I asked him about Iwata, because they were talking about the rumors that Iwata like literally programmed the game to include the Kanto region.
When Iwata passed, there were so many people that were like, hey, fun fact about Iwata, he's the reason they were able to include Kanto in Gold and Silver because of his amazing programming. And we asked him about it, and it was...
I have a quote. He said, let's see, he didn't outright say like that's what happened, that he was certainly involved in the localization heavily.
Read the exact quote. I think
the exact quote is, that guy was a genius. He also worked on Pokemon, of course, and even with Red and Green, asked us to show him our... hold on. I'm not reading the full... This is a separate quote. Talking about just Iwata in general, that guy was a genius. He also worked on Pokemon, of course, and even with Red and Green, he asked us to show him our source code, and within 3 days, he probably knew it better than we did.
Right.
So, like, mostly the thing that I walked away with that Iwata discussion was just that, like, I don't know how integral he was to, like, making sure Sun and Gold and Silver was completed, but they definitely saw him as just being, like, brilliant.
Well, hang on. There was another quote where they're talking about it as well, where he asked about the idea of him being involved in the expansion. He said, like, no, if I remember correctly, he was only working on the localization. He only worked on the localized version.
We asked, how instrumental was Iwata for running the Coda game? He said, he was very instrumental for Gold and Silver. My memory isn't 100%. He did a lot of program for the localized version of the game. So not the one that came out in Japan, but the ones that were released internationally.
So that would imply that kind of story about, like, him being the reason they were able to expand back into Kanto, not true, unless he was involved in the tech aspect for doubling the size of the cartridge or the memory back in the day. Yeah, maybe that's the angle.
They also called it. They literally called it, like, another quote is they called him a super programmer. So like they definitely respect and acknowledge like how brilliant he was at coding and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know if it made sure Kanto was in the game. You know.
Yeah. Also on the old timer front, Tajiri, we asked about that. Like, hey, the original creator, seen as the creator of Pokemon Red and Blue. What is he up to? And they said, he's just investigating other types of media. Yeah. Is that just sitting at home watching Netflix?
It wasn't until I got back because I was looking through the transcription. I was like, researching media, isn't that just like watching TV? Couldn't that just be like dicking around on the internet?
But I guess he's involved over at Creatures, card game, stuff like that.
And it sounds like he does step in when he wants to be involved.
He's executive producer still.
But we asked if he was shy, and that was Masuda kind of gave the impression it's like, yeah, he's just kind of shy. He lets me do all this sort of media talking and stuff like that. He just doesn't really feel the need to be front and center anymore, I guess.
Just to bring up the financials again, I looked up some data here. So they sell tens of millions of games, right?
Some of the best selling of all time,
Yeah.
But you'd think they'd be making bank, but they didn't until last year when Pokemon Go came out. They made Pokemon Go's company's net profits jump to $143.3 million. What's interesting about that is it's 26 times higher than their previous year. And those previous years are all pretty even.
Right. And in theory, that's because like when they make their own stuff, the Pokemon company, and they're actually developing and contracting with developers outside of Nintendo, even though Nintendo still owns a share of the Pokemon IP and gets a slice of that, it's much more direct going to Pokemon Company directly, and it's less of that pie being cut up. And that was the crazy thing, and the takeaway is just realizing how sliced up that pie is. I'm curious how Game Freak is doing financially now, because we just assumed like, they're all millionaires. But I don't know. And the fact that they're so worried about like the install base, they realize they have to sell so many. And that also then ties into like, they're still an independent company and they're trying all these little side experiments. None of them have really taken off for the games outside of the Pokemon series. And when you're an independent company, and if you make this one game, you get the biggest cut of this gigantic pie. Like, of course, they'll keep going back to that again and again and again.
Especially direct to consumer now, you know, like they can sell them that way. Like they're not splitting it up 50 different ways. They can have it just maybe between Xbox or PlayStation, Steam, and them, right? Like,
right. Yeah, for sure. We asked, by the way, because they talked again about how separate they are from Nintendo. They said like, it's not like Nintendo can tell us what to do as Game Freak. Like we're definitely our own thing. And so I just asked the common question I've just been asked 1,000 times. Just like, so technically, you guys could make a Pokemon RPG on the PS4. And they said, what's the exact thing? They said basically, yes, we could, but we have the friendship with Nintendo. We feel like Nintendo's a good home, so that's why we don't, which is still wild to think about.
And then you're like,
Pokemon Hunter World coming.
Look forward to it, please.
I think I have the actual quote here. Everyone really knows Nintendo. There's a familiarity with the brand, and they have that really strong brand that Pokemon being associated with that and being affiliated with the brand is very important. So they seem to like just the idea that Pokemon and Nintendo are together.
It's true. The brands go well together. It'd be tough to separate them at this point.
But they could sell another 20 million copies on PlayStation 4. Yes. PC, like, oh my goodness. Like,
but that brand.
It's a hell of a brand.
That friendship.
One of my big takeaways, Kyle, was just the problem with the IP being so spread out. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's such a monumental IP and just basic idea of Pokemon. And I wish it had the focused early days of Lucasfilm, George Lucas, I am the creator. It is my vision going out there. But the fact that it's split out into everybody at the Pokemon Company, all these different games, partly Nintendo, partly Game Freak, partly Masuda, it just feels so spread out that I feel like it becomes a little bit more of a vanilla IP than it should be because of just being spread out over all those things. Like, it would take such a visionary to come in and be like, okay, my slice of the pie is going to look like this, and everyone get in line with me. I mean, we talked about the anime in those early days and how influential that was just for like, oh yeah, we want the Pokemon to say their own names. And the Game Freak's like,
that sounds bad.
Yeah, we don't really, okay, sure. And I loved going back and tracking down just those early days. I'm a huge dork for this stuff, and I went out and I bought the manga, which was released in 97, and read through that, and it was fascinating to be like, oh, here's a slightly different take where it's a little more edgy. Pokemon trainers are seen differently. They're kind of like samurai in the manga world where it's relatively rare. It's like, what? You're a Pokemon trainer? Whereas in the games, it's every single person you talk to later on. And also it's like a little more graphic. They slice an Arbok in the middle and you can like see its guts and stuff.
Nice.
But not as edgy as I was pitched. I was pitched as like, this is the dark, crazy Pokemon stuff. And like it's basically in line, except for little things like the Pokeballs, you can see through them. So you can see the Pokemon like floating around inside.
There's on the topic of the anime, one little tidbit, just quick aside that I liked was we were like, oh yeah, you guys, were you excited about the anime? Did you watch the anime when it premiered? Did you guys all sit around and eat popcorn? And they're like, Masuda's like, yeah, we watched it. But we weren't eating popcorn. We're Japanese.
We're Japanese. It's like, oh, okay.
Sure. All right.
Yeah.
On the note of the manga, you can buy those right now at Costco, a big collection of
really?
like, I think they have 4 different collections from different eras of Pokemon, but the first one, I think they're each like $38. So if you want to read those, you can do those.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see. I mean, it came out after the show was released in Japan, so it's not as different. I wanted just a pure alternate version, but just to see minor fluctuations, like Oak is kind of a dick. Like those little things are kind of fun. But then on the topic of expanding out to other media, they've released this Pokemon series on YouTube called Pokemon Generations. They did it last year, and I wasn't really paying attention because I watched Pokemon Origins, which was based on Red and Blue. But with Generations, it's a series of vignettes, like little short stories throughout the game series, going from game to game to game. It kind of gets bogged down with legendary stuff later on. That's not great. It seems like the translation is the main problem with Origins as well. It's just a little vanilla, like all the games, and they need some more personality in there. But there's one episode that I would recommend Pokemon fans check out where it's awesome. It's basically Zero Dark 30. It's a SEAL Team 6, SEAL spelled differently, going in and trying to take out Giovanni. They're like, we know he's at this gym. Let's go. Let's raid. It's like Machamp, like busting through the wall, trying to take him out. It's like this is the second episode of Pokemon Generations. It's the coolest Pokemon video content I've ever seen. But still, it's not much.
Yeah.
It just needs that focused vision that it doesn't have.
We even asked like what were the sort of tenets that Tajiri left? Like even though he's not really working on Pokemon a lot these days, like what do you look at? What are the pillars of Pokemon that Tajiri left behind? This is what Pokemon is. And Masuda's kind of like, we don't really have that.
Exactly.
We all know what Pokemon is. I know when I see it. I just I couldn't define it.
Yeah. But it was an amazing trip.
It was cool. I'm pretty sure the biggest thing I've ever written for the magazine. An awesome trip. I feel like I got the full Japanese experience doing karaoke and going to Akihabara and all that stuff.
It was a very quick trip, but
Yes.
the highlight was really watching Kyle waste Masuda-san's time by showing him drawings that his daughter made.
Aww.
Okay, there's a little more to that story though.
Okay,
there was a
Oh,
feature
boy.
that fell through that was going to be
Right.
part of, but I did have drawings of Pokemon that my daughter made, and we were finishing up, and you were putting your camera stuff away.
That's true.
And Hanson was mad at me for not asking him more Pokemon questions, but it was like 2 minutes. I was like, hey, I want to show you these pictures of Pokemon that my
He was
daughter
very
drew.
nice.
And
Be like,
Hanson,
your daughter drew
you
these. Look at this."
secretly took a picture, so I have a picture now that I can show my daughter of me showing her Pokemon designs to the creators of Pokemon.
I really
Which was
appreciate
nice.
it. I like it when you push back, Kyle, because then I was giving you crap about it right after that, and I think you called me an asshole. I was like, okay, good. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you.
I thought it was a nice,
People need to do that more
a nice
often.
I
little
agree.
end of the interview. Hey, check it. They're like the PR people are like, oh, he loves looking at everyone's character designs
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I didn't even pitch it. It was the PR guys
Well,
who were like, hey, take this opportunity to show.
I
your drawings.
recommend my path, which was incorrect, where as we were leaving, I just gave like a nice little speech I like to give to developers every once in a while, where it's like, hey, your work really means a lot to me. I just want to thank you for managing this series throughout the years. And then realize, oh, the translator isn't around here. He has no idea what I just said. All right, well, bye. Bye. And that's Game Freak, everybody.
It was a cool trip. Watch
Oh my
a
God.
lot of interviews going up. So
Yeah, it's a cool
keep an eye
piece
for
in the
those.
magazine. 12 pages, I
12
think.
big
12
pages of
Yeah.
Pokemon.
Big old pages.
Check it out.
Lord. But the reason I was traveling so much is we also went to Sledgehammer.
We did.
And just for a timestamp, I like this kind of dorky thing. Remember
Okay.
when Ben Reeves hosted the podcast a couple of weeks ago?
I was there.
There we go, to a magical effect. That's because I was out of town on all these trips.
I know.
But we went to Sledgehammer Games.
We did.
Saw Call of Duty World War II. You wrote a wonderful cover story on it.
I did, if I do say so myself. You should check it out.
Do you like writing?
Well, that's why. I better.
Hanson, do you like video?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Are you proud of this feature?
I am, yeah. I think we got a lot of great information.
What was the most standout piece of information?
I don't think they've ever done hands-on zombies before the release of the game, before, the release window. So
Sure.
that was incredible that they let us get into that deep, especially how deep they let us get into it. Like 13 waves, significant chunk of content.
Overall, I guess they said we made it about 30% of the way through the zombies experience. But it's fun to get like the full setup for Call of Duty Zombies this time around, because the marketing beat and very much the message is, hey, after all, a lot of this studio worked on Dead Space back in the day.
Sure.
And then we went over to Sledgehammer, and now we're getting all of it out of our system by making the most terrifying zombies ever. But it's amazing that like in the Activision PR strategy, it's like reference Dead Space constantly. But
it's a fair, there's definitely like, you can see it there.
You think
Like,
so?
I think you can see the underpinnings, not necessarily like they're definitely taking it in like the scary Nazi vibe, which I think is very strong. Like
The
that's a
concept
very
art
strong
is
element.
amazing.
Yeah.
I definitely had that moment where we started playing. It's like, okay, it's Call of Duty Zombies mode.
It is Call of Duty. It's one of the more frenetic zombie modes I've played. It
Yeah?
seems to be, I don't know if we're going into it right now, but
Hell
like
yeah.
it's seat of your pants, like on the fly decision making more than going through a checklist of this is how we need to proceed with this mission to win.
Really?
Yeah. yeah.
What change ups did you have halfway through?
Like we had several incidents which were more dynamic events than typical zombies mode, where we had to like kill people in a certain area in order to power up different things and move through the dungeon, or not dungeon, but the
You
layout.
start out in like a snowy town in Germany, and then you're descending in these layers of hell, and they say it gets wetter and crazier as it goes down.
Yeah.
Wetter.
They said
Yeah,
specifically
it's-
wetter.
They did. They made a point to hammer that one home.
Yeah.
As you get down
does
there with
that
the
mean?
blood and viscera and organs that you're
Yeah.
trampling on. It's very pure horror. It's like the last two entries. I've liked them both, but I like the film noir vibe, and of course the campy '80s one I really like that too. But this one's just like, nah, we're not going to do anything cutesy. This is a horror story.
To the
They
point that
say
like
that,
But it's true.
but then they get like celebrities to be in all these games.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the structure now, right? You got to have a couple big names to carry it, but they don't do any like the kitschy comedy act. This is like, we are down here and we're gonna die.
even to the point of the zombies that don't have glowy eyes anymore. They want it
Yeah.
to be, in theory, they say like, oh, we did our research. We want it to be like kind of sort of physically possible that
Pseudoscience.
conceptually Nazis would have revived these corpses. And it's the backstory. Who knows how much is going to come through outside of like Easter eggs? But the backstory is it's very much a Jurassic Park situation where the Nazis are like, we can control the dead.
Yes.
This is beautiful. We'll make a whole army. And then, my God, it's gotten out of control and
No!
they've killed the Nazis as well.
Right.
And that's why in the lore of Nazi zombies, that's why there's like guns everywhere that you can buy and stuff, because they're like, an emergency break glass situation for the Nazis, just in case the zombies ever got out of control.
And they came up with and they did 3 times before you get there, as a matter of fact. So yeah, you can read. I wrote a whole thing on the lore, on the specific lore stuff on the site, so I don't know how deep you want to get into that. But yeah, it's crazy how they're looking at sort of like the Nazi obsession with combining analytical science with the occult. Like this was a real crazy thing, and they're just swinging for the fences on that one and just going with it, which is cool.
Yeah, it's all based on, help me out, Dan, what was the name of the Holy Roman Emperor?
Barbarossa.
There we go. It's all
So that would the First Reich.
Yeah, so it's this worship of Barbarossa, right? And then you're going down, you're trying to construct Tesla guns, and there's a surprising amount of electricity in this mode.
They didn't tell us exactly how Barbarossa's involved, but I'm guessing there's going to be some relic from his era.
There's statues and stuff of him in this arena and stuff, but a surprising amount of electricity.
Tons of electricity.
Getting to certain areas and then just frying the hell out of all these zombies.
Right. And special abilities, like I don't think I've seen those in zombie mode before. Like not that are powered, like you have a bar that charges up and you can unleash your ultimate, so to speak, which is really
like
cool.
Infinite ammo, which Dan
I
had for a
needed.
shocking amount of time.
Yeah, because apparently I had a perk that gave me let me overcharge my ability, so it could go above the cap. So when I actually did use it, I got to shoot for like a minute of just pure free fire, which was, as you saw, very necessary. Like they swarm you real hard. And interestingly enough, this zombies isn't just wave-based. There's location and environment triggers as well for encounters. So it is kind of like walking through like a haunted house in some respects. It felt more like some of the other zombie modes where you could kind of calculate, we want to fight this wave here.
Yeah.
This one's like, oh, we open this door, that thing's going to come at us. And we have to calculate the waves on top of that.
Dan Tack was big after we played. By the way, I just took notes for them. I didn't necessarily play. Jeff Cork did. But Dan Tack was big on pointing out, like, I think you're pulling some punches. That seemed too easy. What's going on here? Did you put this on easy mode?
I did ask, and they wouldn't answer that, if you noticed.
I think they did.
They said no, but they said...
That's an answer.
Hey, but they said they were making it more accessible, but at the same time, super hardcore for the people. Because the zombie audience is extremely hardcore. Like, they figure out all the secrets.
Yeah.
And exactly, they have to break it down into, like, we have to get this gun when we open this gate, figure it down, like, currency points, where we're going to be.
So it's a wider gate for the opening, but then it's going to narrow and get more difficult as you go along.
Walk me through that real quick. Like wave 1, so you ended on wave 15?
13, which is pretty,
13. So
pretty great for one play.
So 40 waves, 45
no doubt
waves?
you're great, Dan.
But how does wave 1 compare? Like what is that?
We got like 30% through the experience or something. Like 25 to 30% through the experience, not counting, mystery triggers and all those other weird stuff that we didn't find. But through the main path.
Do you remember some of the variety in enemies?
Yeah, sure.
So wave 1 is what? You have just standard zombies coming?
The thing opens with sort of like the sort of like traditional Call of Duty Zombies experience where you're like you're putting boards on walls, getting your pistols, but it ends almost immediately after that. I don't remember another time when we were actually doing window boarding.
Because you go down into the sewers then pretty quickly after that, and then it gets into messed up tunnels.
Down to the sewers, into the morgue, into the laboratory, different areas underneath the town where all this sadistic science has been going on. Like, these zombies are propelled by some nervous system technology, and they actually are like, there's got all kinds of like spinal grafts and metal bolts and all kinds of stuff to strap them together. And this is actually, they really went for it, like I said, because these elements are functional, not just to like strap him up, like not just to keep his arm upright, but actually like they get their power from being tortured because of how this nervous system stuff works. So like if you put a device on them that's going to torture them as well, they get stronger. Like it's crazy. It's really weird and disturbing.
And then your last wave, what was that like?
Well, last wave was we had a combination. I think it was an event boss kind of guy because he was destroying everybody. Just a giant like several people torso like guy with a flame pack, and he just annihilated us while we were getting waved down, and we were right about to get our Tesla weapons, which would have probably saved us.
Yeah,
we were right against the timer, I guess, so to speak.
I wish Jeff Cork was here because he was the biggest on bringing this up. Like, hey, it's really strange that the zombies mode is so over the top, and it's like, ooh, look at this spooky stuff. And then also with the campaign, you're like, this is like an honor, a tribute to World War II veterans. We're really giving it our all. Jeff Cork had the perfect analogy where he's like, it's like you guys are bundling together a 2 DVD pack of Raiders of the Lost Ark and Schindler's List. I guess Saving Private Ryan's probably a better example.
You're not out of line there. It's a little strange, but at the same time, I always say like these are actually separate games almost at this point. You buy a Call of Duty, you get 3 different games. You get the campaign,
Yeah.
you get the multiplayer, and you get a zombies or some other thing, right?
Right.
But I think they are really disparate entries. Like, some people play it for just multiplayer and never touch that other stuff. And I think at this point, zombies has become its own thing. So I think some people play just zombies. And there's a lot to dig deep into this one with, looking for clues, like toys.
Yeah. That's true. Well, what did you think about the campaign stuff?
So the campaign stuff,
We talked to him a lot about it, but we didn't see too much new campaign content.
But we did get to talk to them a lot. And one of the missions, some of the stuff in particular was really exciting to me. The Wolf's Den mission, which is the one where you will play as the French Resistance Rousseau and as who's the other Crowley,
who was at Dunkirk.
He was at
There we go.
Dunkirk. He's a British SOE back then.
Sony Online Entertainment.
Before yeah. Anyway, you get to play as these guys after you get like fraudulent documents and Nazi uniforms, and you get to basically sneak into Gestapo HQ. And this isn't like a stealth mission where you're like just trying to hide out of sight. You actually have to like interact with Nazi officers and other people in there to complete your mission, which opens the gates so that you can complete the rest of the mission. And that kind of experience thrown into the mix seems like it's going to be super
Yeah, it
cool.
seems
How
like
do you interact?
We don't know the
We didn't
details.
see it, yeah. We just got a lot of overview stuff. But I mean, the idea is you're playing as Red Daniels most of the game.
Yeah, here's the protagonist, and he's like American apple pie boy.
He's trying to get home to his sweetheart.
He's trying to
back
get home to his sweetheart.
Which
It's so typical.
Well, they pointed it out where it's like Call of Duty has rarely done too much of a love story. Not that overall it's going to be a love story,
It's
but
definitely
just,
not gonna be a love
touching
story.
on the idea of like this guy's relationship with his wife is
It's
kind of interesting for the
sort of his
series.
motivation, and he might get a sweetheart grip because they're in the game, right? So maybe he has that on his pistol. These were things in World War II. Plexiglass inserts on your pistol.
Plexiglass inserts.
For
Kyle.
those listening, I was laughing at Hanson's wink.
That's Hanson for you.
Uh,
But yeah, the main crew of the game, basically, it strikes me as like, yo, Band of Brothers, this is it. I mean,
that was again. I wish Jeff Cork was here because Cork was very great. He at some point just said like, "Hey guys, like, help alleviate my concerns that this isn't just going to be a series of like the classic references for World War II." And the response from the narrative lead was, "Look, we're sponges. Like, we absorb everything, of course, and archetypes are not necessarily a bad thing."
from what we saw, no, I do think it looks like a really cool overview of the European theater, 44 to 45.
And it has a cool journey where it's like as you're moving deeper into Germany, the story's going to get a little bit darker
It does.
naturally, as you can imagine, and then that corresponds to the season. So it's going to be like the dead of winter by the time
Right.
things are at their lowest.
and that's when
you know?
friction within your own crew, because the primary antagonist is actually sort of within your own squad.
Right.
Obviously, you're fighting the Nazis, but
I'd argue it's Hitler, but that's just me, Dan.
I would say that you're correct. I'm saying
Okay.
the one that you're going to be dealing with directly.
Uh-huh.
As far as I know, there's not a mission in the game where you just you kill Hitler.
Right.
All right. But so yeah, you're dealing with squad friction that happens due to officer decisions and other stuff within the unit. So that's going to be an interesting element on top of everything else. And we also know now from this trip that there are heroic actions in the campaign,
Yeah.
which seem like they could be interesting. We don't know the rewards for them yet, but you can actually like pull your friend out of fire, or choose not to execute a prisoner that you've captured or something like that. Like, there are all kinds of things where you make the choice and you'll get rewarded for it in some way. I also saw, from the brief stuff we did see, it looks really intense. Like, even for Call of Duty, like, I'm used to like explosions going off everywhere, but like just maybe a little bit more intimate than the last few Calls of Duties. Even though I'm a big fan of Infinite Warfare story,
Yeah.
but this one is just like the fact that your teammates really have to interact with you, which they never have before. They're just a guy that sits behind a box
Yeah.
and shoots into the air and never touches anything, right? In this one, they're actually interacting with you, providing you with resources and real covering fire.
They had an interesting talking point that they brought up a couple times. Is like, everybody references Saving Private Ryan. That was from 1999. Like, there's a generation that haven't had like the defining piece of World War II media, which maybe like
They're not wrong
Captain
in that.
America, but I just think about like the Band of Brothers, the Pacific, but outside of that, Dunkirk, I guess, is the
Dunkirk.
easy example
Hacksaw
now.
Ridge, but that's not.
That's
not
true as
European,
well,
Not
but,
European
like,
theater.
They see themselves as like hopefully going for that slot of like, we want to be the defining World War II story for a certain generation.
And it's
Maybe it's
something
just
that
the
struck me,
gamer
like-
side of things, but
Like, we've all seen Saving Private Ryan probably a dozen times.
Not enough,
right?
Dan.
I know, but
Yeah.
like, I did think
Tell
about
me
that.
it's a
I'm
good
like,
movie.
if I'm growing up right now, I may have not.
Yeah.
Like, as crazy as that sounds, but like, it just seems like something we take for granted. So, a lot of the people would not have seen takes on these what we think are classic battles. They may have not seen them at all.
yeah.
Maybe Normandy, but there are others probably not.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there for sure. Multiplayer stuff, you got your ass kicked by an amazing player, which we'll have footage
Yes.
going up at GameInformer.com.
Probably the-
multiplayer.
Got to be one of the best players in the entire world.
Here's the conundrum we were in, right? Because like, we're going to play a bunch of multiplayer, including like the stuff that's in the beta, like the maps Gibraltar and Aachen. And so it's like, okay, we want to capture it. Well, I don't want to capture Dan playing. No offense, I'm sure he's a fine Call of Duty
Hey,
player.
you know what? I'm pretty good.
I'm sure you're great. But then it's like, well, let's get somebody from Sledgehammer. And they're like, well, somebody's on the team that is absolutely amazing. They don't want to reveal that they hired this person yet, but it's a professional Call of Duty player. And they're like, this guy's absolutely phenomenal. And then it's like, well, I guess we'll capture him. And then the question was, do you want me to go all out, or do you want me to pretend like I'm an average Call of Duty player? And it's like, well, let's see some man. Like you gotta give it your all. So then that resulted in fun footage of this guy being amazing, but then just slaughtering
What was
Cork
the
and Tank.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
what was the KDD?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Oh, he was unbelievable. He never died.
You didn't kill him.
I don't know if I got to kill him because we didn't get to.
He did die a couple times, not at the hands of these two jokers.
I don't know if I got a kill on him sounds a whole lot like I didn't get a kill
No,
on him.
I literally don't know because I didn't know. We didn't know. Like people didn't have names in that. It was like Unit 5 or whatever. So I didn't know when to change teams. I think I may have caught him with a stray grenade. It's possible.
But multiplayer stuff, they showed it, some of it at E3. We're going to have footage of like new maps and stuff like that, Gibraltar specifically. But HQ was the big thing.
HQ is just a huge, massive change for the series, and I think it's something they're going to keep moving forward. They didn't say that, but there's no way if this takes off that they're not going to put it in the
if
next
it
title.
takes off.
And it will.
So want to explain what it is?
Sure. So normally in multiplayer, you queue up, you go to your lobby, and then you join a game. Now, instead of doing that, you are in a 48-person instance before you're queuing up for any games and stuff. And you can walk around there. You can participate in all kinds of stupid activities. Like you can go to the theater. You can watch professionals play in there, like watch Twitch or whatever.
This is cooler than you made it seem. So you're walking around this environment.
was
and
gonna
so, but
keep
like the
going.
theater's like in Red Dead, right? Where you can like walk in there and you can just then sit down with all these other players and they'll just like have Twitch streams of like the championships of Call of Duty and stuff. Unclear if they'll have, but it's like a projector showing it like on a tarp.
In black and white.
No.
No.
I wish. Although we didn't see it, but I cannot imagine. That'd be so cool. if
I
you
honestly
could
think
show
that
it.
once you sit down, it's going to like queue it up in a browser or something. It's not going to actually be in the client.
So,
but
really?
I
God,
don't
hope it
know,
is.
but that would be. I would be surprised.
Yeah.
It's a fully realized world, like
Yes,
with
this is-
living
okay, so
kind
this
of
is a-
NPCs that you're a part of.
Hang on.
Yes.
Okay, so this is D-Day plus 3. So that's what it's modeled after. So when all the supply trucks and everything had come in after the invasion.
It's the cover of the new issue of Game Informer.
It is the cover. So you got supply trucks and everything, boats, flag held high. And this is a zone you actually can walk around in and interact with people.
It's kind of like a circular path. You can't like go run down to the water and stuff like that. It's kind of like a defined area, but then there's like doorways for all the different areas you want to go to.
Correct.
The easy analogy is the tower from Destiny.
It's an easy analogy. I don't know if it's completely accurate, but
It's
sure.
not.
You know what? It's in the same ballpark, so we can use it.
It pops you into third person by default. You can't shoot walking
Correct.
around the area.
You show off your gun, basically, though. It's on your back. And there's proximity-based voice chat. This is where you open your supply drops. So, when you get your crates, which at least on launch are going to be cosmetic only. We don't know about after that.
There was a lot of framing, like, during the launch window, we were going to keep it cosmetic only. It's like, okay, I see where this is going. And also, there's expressions you can do. You can, like, sit down. You can throw
There's
a ball
emotes.
around.
The emotes, and all these emotes and loot are period specific.
But that's
so-
the-
Like
not-
sitting down when people used to sit down.
Well, I was just about to ask
Yeah.
if you can do like anachronistic dances.
Well,
and
that's
stuff
exactly
like
what this is the point, is they also said for that launch window,
Okay.
at launch, it's going to be period specific, but,
anything
it
can
might
happen
get
after
wacky.
that.
So I can do Gangnam Style in there in a couple months.
Well, they talked about like the weird things that happened during playtest, and they said
It would
that,
seem so wrong, especially for this
Yeah.
game.
oh, it would be
Yeah.
absolutely wrong.
well, they mentioned that at some point during the testing that everybody just without really communicating this formed a giant conga line, and then we're marching around.
like PlayStation Home.
Exactly.
So
That's what I'm looking forward to, is the weird shit that comes out of this.
Some of the other significant stuff you can do in there is a awesome firing range that has like splatterable watermelons and points for different targets. You can challenge other people to matches at the firing range.
So you can duel, or you can have like firing range challenges, but the weird part is other players can shoot at the firing range while you're trying to have like this
They
competition.
can.
Like imagine a 1v1 in like a classic Zelda shop where trying to use the bow to hit all those toys, except there's then 40 other people behind you also shooting at
Okay,
all
for one
those.
thing, 40 people can't line up at the range, and for another thing, if you do want the 1v1 experience, that's another thing you can do.
Yeah.
In the HQ is the 1v1 battle pit. Just you versus another player, and other people can watch.
And you can ban one weapon going in.
Yep.
Also, there was an option I saw about boxing.
There's one
I'm
weapon
curious
ban.
how that's going to work.
There's one weapon ban, and you basically queue up for it. So you're like, I want to engage in the games, and if it's the old school arcade style. So winner stays, loser gets bumped out. So if you're really good, you could stay in that pit cleaning house for some time and get some reputation that way.
It seems fun. I mean, it's a small arena, but I love
Yeah, it's
that
a little
idea
it's
of
a
just
little baby
one-on-ones.
arena of like crates, and you get one weapon ban. So you're like, I really don't want to fight against that stupid thing. I'll ban that thing.
Yeah. The interesting thing overall, talking about HQ, is Sledgehammer, and it seems like Condry, studio head specifically, is talking about like, hey, you're going to have a social score. And the goal for this game is we want this social score to be as popular as the KD ratio, or as important. And you get social score if you do nice things. If you're a cool person in HQ, you can get a thumbs up, a little bump. And in theory, it's like this morality rating within Call
To
of
be
Duty.
clear, they hadn't settled on a name for it. Social score is the
Is that
studio
right?
abbreviation for it. It might not be called that on
Okay.
release. Just want to make sure that's clear. Also, so yeah, the social score stuff. Yeah.
Do you think it's going to take off in the way they expect it to?
I mean,
as far
yeah,
as being
so-
as important as KD?
So there's also daily and weekly quests available at HQ. Some of them have to do with going into HQ and interacting with other players, or doing stuff like playing in the pit. But the other ones will take you out in a multiplayer, and you get credit for stuff there. And that all goes into increasing your social score, which ostensibly gives you better loot drops.
and it's,
Oh.
I mean, talking about walking around that environment, they also want to have like events like, okay, everyone's got to man the AA guns.
Yep.
There's a crazy event happening in the social space. And then also weird things like there's one area that you couldn't get to because there's like a general standing there. Like, you must be level 40 to come
That's
in here,
the,
soldier.
That's the prestige zone for players
we
who
go.
play Call of Duty. They know what the prestige system is like. Basically, when you prestige in this game, you'll go to the special VIP area with the general.
It's Pride Rock.
And yeah, exactly. It's Pride Rock, and he'll promote you in front of everybody, and you'll get a big call out, and
then
you'll
he
get
pants his ears.
prestiged. So it's way cooler than just being like, "Yep, I prestige, cool."
It is true. It'll be a moment like someone in your
Yeah.
group's like, oh, look, they're up there. There's fireworks going off. This is crazy. They finally did it.
And you open your crates in town too, and people around you, if you score a cool piece of loot, they will also get rewards. So like, it behooves you to go like hang out with your buddies while they open their loot and see if they get anything good, because you will too.
Dan, one
That's
month.
kind of crazy, actually.
It is a wild idea.
And
What
this
are the
is,
odds?
This is all just basically
That's all
a
proximity.
giant. This is all just a giant. Yeah, and this is like a
That's
giant
cool.
lobby, more or less. That it's sort of the new hangout between multiplayer matches.
Odds of it becoming a starter island in PUBG style shit show.
I have 48 players. I
Yeah.
don't think it can. Like, you can't.
But
shoot
nothing
your gun.
happens there.
Yeah,
right?
you can't
Like,
shoot your gun or anything. I can't see this happening.
Hanson, I'm going to go ahead and say 100%.
Okay, I mean, I just
I would
cannot
say
imagine a
0%.
world where it's not going to be just
Conga
people.
lines jumping.
That's fun. I'm just worried about
that'll happen.
N-Bomb City. Everyone running around that space screaming at each other.
That's no different than what you have to deal with in any multiplayer game that uses a mic.
I'm just saying, I think they have very high expectations for this, and I don't know.
But it is just proximity based. So you can
you can turn it off.
what is the proximity? Like 5
Real-
feet, 10 feet?
It's
real
like,
life-ish.
it's close. Yeah, it's real life-ish.
Yeah, real life.
You're not just gonna go in there and have a screaming.
Just 40 people constantly?
No, see, you have to be close. All right. It's,
Yeah, no, I think that might work.
Cool.
This,
That
I
is
think
gonna
it
be
sounds really cool.
You're putting the worst spin on it. I think of it more like, hey, that's really cool. You've got the Mountain Division ghillie suit. What rank do you need to get that? I really want that.
Yeah.
You know what this reminds me of weirdly? Is how
That does happen. It's not just people screaming. I play a lot of these games.
this is kind of like the Dragon Ball Xenoverse lobby structure.
Oh, what is that like?
It's like it's kind of like the Destiny area, but it's much wider, and everyone has like their different clothes that they can show. It's just like a sort of tangential, like kind of reminiscent.
And
of
what
it.
is the kind of emotional impact of walking around that space?
It's the best part of that game.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Is it kind of like a Splatoon style Miiverse support
Yeah,
community,
but bigger. Yeah.
but no one's screaming and just making a disaster of the
Oh no,
entire
everyone's
thing?
dancing and doing all kinds.
See,
of
everyone's
screaming and
dancing. I
stuff.
think that's great.
Yeah.
If everyone takes the space as being silly, I'm all for that.
There's some that will, some that won't, and if
No.
they're not, just pop into a game because that's what you're there for anyway. Ostensibly, right? You want to play the game.
Can you have a private HQ if you want? Just for your
Oh,
clan.
Interesting.
I don't believe so. That was not. I mean, because I think it just pops you out into an instanced version of it with your friends if they're there. I don't know. We didn't get any specifics on that, but anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's a really cool feature, and
It's interesting.
I don't think the series will ever. They didn't. Obviously, they don't know if it's going to carry on from game to game, but I certainly think the series is going to keep that running. Like,
Yeah.
I just can't see them going that far and then dialing back.
Yeah, definitely. So we have a whole month of coverage going up. We got a
We do.
hub. Where's the URL there, Dan? I'll blow it.
COD WW2.
There we go. You got
It's
it.
II.
It is technically II.
It's II.
But you can just go gameformer.com. We have a bunch of features going
Yeah,
up there. There's
we'll
going to
have-
be new gameplay footage. There's a cool tour of one of the new maps that's going to be in the beta that no one's seen yet. So
You'll get to see. We have some HQ stuff coming.
Yep.
So you get a total rundown of that. You get to see that amazing player crush everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And we have all kinds of other exclusive stuff coming out throughout the month. So that's gonna be fun.
I'll be damned. Real quick, so this isn't the longest show known to man.
Yeah,
LawBreakers, Dan, you've played a
Yes.
little bit of this game. It's
Yeah.
Cliffy B
A
from
little
Gears of War
bit, so like
fame.
15 hours.
Okay, there we go.
I'm pretty much ready. I'm starting. The review will be up on the site soon. I don't have an exact time.
Two
frame.
middle fingers up.
It's
Is it that good?
I would say the game, like the technical gameplay aspects of it, are pretty good. To be honest with you,
looks fun.
it's really twitchy. It's really old school. It's really hardcore.
arena
this,
shooter.
This is a game where arena shooter. You die in 0.5 seconds.
So
Mistakes are punished. Mobility is extremely important. Yeah, it harkens back to those kind of style of games.
That's awesome.
So in that aspect, it's actually really great. However, other aspects not so great. Like it has 5 different game modes, but they all feel kind of the same, and that's really hammering home after so many hours of play. And the characters have absolutely like I couldn't tell you a defining characteristic of any of them. Like I know they all have their
One gives a
special-
middle finger up.
their weapon types and all that stuff. Like so, back in the gameplay aspect, they're all very strong. But like from personality aspect,
Yeah.
I couldn't care or tell you about any of them.
I think one's a robot.
Yep.
Okay.
See, I can't even tell you the class it is. It's just like they're just nondescript people that you blow away. They're
Yeah.
dead in 2 seconds, or you are.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of skill and a lot of great stuff. Like I said, the gameplay is really tight, really good. They did a great job on that.
Is it a good foundation to kind of build on from the future, you think?
I don't know. I hope so.
Yeah.
And I've got lots more to say, and my review will be up. I don't know, next couple days.
Check it out, everybody.
Ballpark it, and I'd like to. Yeah, I know we don't have time to talk about it a ton, but
Sure. But the review will be going up.
it will be eventually.
There we go. Dan, I also wanted to get your take real quick on the fact that Valve announced a new game this week.
They sure did.
Isn't that wild?
One of my favorite genres, as a matter of fact.
So this is a CCG, everybody.
I know a lot of people are like, Valve announced a new game. It's a Dota CCG. Well,
Hang on a second. Leo in the booth, do we have an audio clip of an actual announcement here?
oh yeah.
That is the entire arena when they saw the card game thing
Yeah.
pop up on the screen.
So you know what? I see this 2 ways. If I am a standard, if I as a gamer, I got to think that a lot of people do is like, wow, is this some low hanging fruit? Valve wants to get some of those CCG dollars off one of their big IPs. I
They're
don't blame
desperate
you.
for cash.
I do not blame you for thinking that. Like
Uh-huh.
that's the immediate thing. It's just like, oh come on, we all want Half-Life 3. We all want anything. We want a Valve game, Left 4 Dead 3, whatever.
Yeah.
And then let's announce a new game. It's a Dota card game, and it's like, okay, I understand a healthy amount of skepticism here.
Why is it called Artifact?
I don't think they've revealed that.
Oh, really? It's not like a Dota thing?
No.
So what have they announced? Have you been following it?
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very closely.
Okay.
So this is a Dota CCG. It's going to involve.
DOTA CCG.
It's. I know, right? I mean,
Oh, Dota 2's.
here's the optimistic
Yeah,
part
you
of it.
know
Like the concept that they've revealed so far, it sounds enticing, but we have to see how it plays out. What the monetization is going to be crucial.
And so they said multiple lanes, right?
So this is going to work sort of like a card game Dota game. You've got 3 different lanes, just like Dota. You have 5 heroes that you can put in your different lanes, just like Dota. Literally the Dota heroes.
Yeah.
You have barracks you can upgrade to send more creeps down lanes, sort of like Dota, but not precisely.
There was another.
And
Hang on, Dan. I want to interrupt. There was another CCG that had multiple lanes. You were talking about.
Elder Scrolls,
Elder Scrolls. Yeah.
Is that right?
multiple lanes. But
2
I don't think
lanes,
they're
right?
going to work like in this.
Okay.
Yes, technically Elder Scrolls, but this sounds way different as a concept. This sounds like you have creeps that come from these lanes to go and attack the enemy. Like a Dota game, like a fluid moving Dota game. I don't know. They haven't said that. I don't know if it's more like a board game or if it's a RTS style thing where you put your cards down or just every turn your creeps move. We have to see. We don't know. But in some form, you'll be equipping your heroes, and your heroes get defining abilities like they do in Dota. So if you're the bounty hunter, the skill they mentioned, you can like track an opponent to kill him for more gold, just like you can in Dota.
Mm-hmm.
So this is all the Dota IP and all the Dota game being realized in a card game form of some way. And we don't know the specifics after that.
Is there a universe where they don't start to branch out? Here's of the Storm with these cards.
Yeah, that'll never happen.
Never. 2 years down the road, they're not going to throw in some Ricochet cards, some Counter-Strike cards in there.
Blizzard has the, wait, what are you talking about?
Adding more from the Valve universe into this card game.
Oh,
I thought you were talking like, Blizzard characters are going to show that. 'cause you said
I
Heroes
don't.
of the Storm.
I don't
Yeah,
think
no.
that they
Okay.
would. No, this
don't think they
is a specific Dota IP
Although
game.
the name, us not knowing what the name means, maybe does leave that door open, right? Like maybe they could have an expansion set that adds characters from other games.
I think the chances of that are extremely low. Based,
I agree with
wanna-
you, but I mean there is that ambiguity. of
Everything
like,
they're
oh,
doing
no.
from the game style to everything is like trying to be strict to the Dota universe, the Dota
Yeah,
IP.
but I mean, doesn't Dota have like Wheatley and GLaDOS announcers and stuff like that?
They-
Well,
that is
announcer
true.
packs, yeah.
And I would not, that's another big question here. How is the monetization for this game going to work? If it's you got to buy cards out of crates, I would expect some serious fervor. From
Well,
the
what would
community.
you expect
'Cause the
based
thing
on
is-
what Valve has done
So the thing
recently?
like Dota 2 is completely free in every way, which is awesome. The only thing you ever pay for in that game is cosmetic. But a card game isn't usually structured that way. So this is going to be interesting. When you cosmetic cards could happen. So everybody gets all the cards free in your cosmetic amount. Could see it, but in this day and age, I'm more concerned that it's going to be ripping packs, getting epics and legendaries. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Based on the, everyone being upset that, they're making a card game, just remember when Hearthstone was announced,
Yeah.
remember how skeptical the world
Are you
was.
kidding me? I was there.
Okay,
It was
exactly.
It was at a PAX,
Yeah.
and nobody cared. They were like, "Oh, Blizzard card game."
And it's like Valve's track record, pretty much flawless. Like, I think we should be a little excited about
Oh,
this.
yeah.
I'm legit. I've been saying I'm excited, but I at the same time, I see where consumers and gamers are like looking at this with, God, we really wanted. This is like a double-edged sword, right?
Mhm.
First, they think it's a low-hanging fruit, get the CCG dollars, and second, Valve announces a new game, and it's a freaking Dota card game. That's not what anybody wanted, right?
Yeah.
I get it. And on the other end of things, I'm really excited to see how this translates into its own card game, especially if it's more unique instead of using Magic or Hearthstone's template, which a lot of card games do now. And this
Yeah.
sounds completely different. So
And
I'm
we-
jazzed.
As a
On
double,
that-
go ahead.
On that same end, Valve made a new game.
it's exciting.
That's exciting.
I probably won't play this game, but that they're still committed to making and releasing a game is exciting.
I'm
And Kyle-
gonna make you play this game, Kyle.
Please do. As a Double Fine fan, Brad Muir is designing it. I don't know if he's lead designer, but he's on the design team. Double Fine, he worked on Massive Chalice most recently, Iron Brigade. He's been Double Fine forever, but he left for Valve. I assume Dota, but apparently
Cool.
Dota card game.
Sort of
probably
Dota.
won't.
It is Dota. It is the same IP, same brand.
We are all Dota. Do you guys want to move on to some great emails?
Oh, okay.
And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We have some great emails that people sent into podcast at GameInformer.com. People sent in feedback, questions, news topics, just crazy concepts, anything you want.
Dares. We can get dares now.
I'm still waiting for one.
Dares are good.
There we go. Send it into
Dares are good.
podcast at GameInformer.com, and then we're going to sort through all those, read every one, sort through all of them, get the best of the best here, and then boil that down to the very best one and ship that person out something really nice.
Really nice.
I heard this time it's going to be an artifact card.
What if you get them all?
The exclusive reveal.
I'll tell you what. We're stopped talking about Artifact, but I really want to see how it plays now and what the systems are behind it.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
I want that King Monkey. Is that a
the
character?
Monkey King. Yeah, isn't it? He's actually in like every MOBA ever.
I know. It's fun, isn't
It's
it? I don't know if I meant that or not.
I don't think you did.
Journey to the West. Come on, everybody.
I think the heritage and like the ancestry of Dota is. I understand there's a pun there accidentally, but I think it's fascinating, and I love they did it. Like,
It really
of course,
is.
there's a Monkey King in all of them because of the weird path that
He
it
was
went.
one of the later
Yeah.
MOBAs to get a Monkey King.
One time. One of the most like when people say it's complicated to explain our industry, it's never really that complicated. But one time, a friend of mine asked me, "League of Legends, why does that game look like World of Warcraft?" I was like, "Okay, here's how this path works."
You know how everyone has a computer, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually a complicated web. Anyways, Craig writes in and says, "So after raving about the complex combat of Breath of the Wild 2 weeks prior, LOL," says Craig, in the last episode, JV Gwaltney said that Destiny's gunplay is, quote, just fine. Does
That's
this guy
JV.
actually play video games? Destiny is arguably the best gunplay in any console FPS this
I
generation.
agree with this guy.
Kudos to Serial and Kyle for giving him
Good job, Kyle.
Was I there
Over
for
here. Yeah.
apparently. Yeah, that
JV
was
is impossible to
It's ju-
predict.
just fine.
just fine.
You know what game is better shooting? Quadrilateral Cowboy.
Yeah. Anyways, Mike Diaz.
Yeah, JV.
Yeah.
Next question. JV's a nice
Screw that
guy.
guy.
I like JV,
Yep, JV's
but
awesome.
he's
JV's
very
great.
unpredictable with his taste. I don't understand.
He doesn't
it.
listen to this podcast, right? You
No,
guys,
there's,
want
there's
No.
no way.
you guys want to start the chant? Fuck
JV.
Fuck JV. Fuck J. Anyway, we love you, JV. Mike Dees writes in and says, I also consume a lot of the Easy Allies content and podcasts, which is interesting. And I've noticed topics they reference one week are consistently asked as a question in the GI show's community mail the following week. Not sure if it's the same person asking each time or if multiple people hear the Easy Allies discussion and then they want GI's perspective on it.
Interesting.
But I wanted to explain that there's a connection.
We're going to get to the bottom of this mystery.
Every once in a while, someone will tweet at me or send an email saying like, hey, that email you read on the show, that exact message was sent out to other podcasts with similar questions. So I don't like that cross-pollination.
Someone's really smart.
I love it when it's GI specific, but it's cool that people are seeing these trends.
So the idea is,
Now you just opened the door for more of that.
Yeah, you just did.
like people are sending the same question to multiple emails.
That's the problem.
Or
Yeah.
podcasts that they listen.
I don't know if it's a problem, but I like it when it's custom for us.
Yeah, I do too.
Make it special, everybody.
Yeah,
it
make
count.
fun of JB.
Write our name in there.
That's custom.
So which, Sam C. from Utah, he says, which villain in a video game do you think is underrated? Doom 2016's Dr. Samuel Hayden springs to mind because we don't really see any intelligent villains in any medium, nor do we see a villain compromise with the hero because of a catastrophe out of their control. P.S. Dantak isn't a villain, he just causes mass hysteria.
There goes my answer.
Yeah.
I was going to pick myself too.
I mean, it's one of the greatest villains of all time, but still underrated is
Did you say
Liquid
video
Snake.
games?
Liquid Snake.
So good. So good. Who's more fun to hate than Liquid Snake?
I don't know. That's a good question. I do have an answer. I don't know if he's more fun to hate than Liquid Snake, but Andy Serkis's King Bohan in Heavenly Sword is awesome.
Because of their performance?
Because of the performance, yeah. Like, he's so weird. He is so bizarre. And maybe it's on my mind because I'm playing Hellblade, and I'm really enjoying Hellblade a lot, which we'll probably get into next week.
Yeah, for sure.
But he, like, it was very early in that, like, sort of, we're going to really focus on capture, like, performance capture, and Andy Serkis just leaned into it so hard, and I just love it. Like,
what does weird mean? What is like?
He just has strange facial expressions and just weird like quirks, and he just like talks very strange. And like, there's another villain that I also like that kind of falls into that name, Flying Fox, in the game, and he just like there's a cutscene where you get to watch those two interact, and it's just like two of the most bizarre video game villains just having a strange conversation. I really adore that game.
Well, I wonder
really
what the keys to a good villain are. Is it like quirks?
Charisma?
You have to
Charismatica.
I don't want to get into a whole thing about this, but the character has to be able to exert influence on the world around him. He has to have the power to make change. So the
that
villain
directly impacts the player.
The villain has to be able to do some kind of. He has to have some impact on the environment around him. Otherwise, he's sort of like a wet noodle.
Well, what about personality in general? I feel like it needs something a little bit off. You know, think of like the Men in Black villain, the weird bug guy, or even like Jack Nicholson's Joker and
just
Batman.
Something impenetrable of like, what is wrong with that?
Yeah,
dude?
It's so easy to just make them the stereotypical psychopath, or, sociopath. But I like it when they do a little bit better than that, right? Like just give them some foibles, make them have some noble goal other than just like, I want to rule the world or I want to kill everything. We get it, all right? But like, give them something else.
Like Archon in Mass Effect Andromeda.
I'm going to go with The Evil Within.
Oh, weird.
This game kind of blew me away in terms of just the villain. Ruvik is his name. And I don't want to spoil too much of it because we have the second one coming out. If you haven't played the first one, absolutely mandatory you do that before you jump into the sequel.
All right.
Because it is a direct continuation 3 years later. But this whole game, you think it's about you, Sebastian Castellanos, this detective who's, had a rough time, lost his family, he's hitting the bottle hard, and you think you're kind of going through manifestations he's creating. But it turns out these are things created by Ruvik. You are in Ruvik's mind through the whole game, and you are seeing his life unfold. He's also this threat, this menace, kind of like Nemesis from Resident Evil 3, where he keeps showing up and you can't take him out. And he is manipulating the environment around you. The whole game is basically Ruvik. And I thought that was fascinating. As I went through that, it was like, holy crap, this is not what I expected. And then the sequel, Castellanos is back, but now he's going through the mind of his daughter, who he thought was dead. So that right there is just like, what the hell is that going to be?
Yeah. I can't wait for the back of the box for Evil Within 2. Castellanos is back, everybody.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Hal in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota says, hey, I just picked up an Oculus Rift on sale. They've really been dropping in price and have been browsing the Oculus store. I'm surprised by the amount of VR games that involve shooting robots. Robo Recall, Raw Data, Lone Echo, Damage Core, to name a few that are popular. What's the reason behind this? Are developers worried that shooting realistic people in VR may potentially lead to people doing it in real life? What's going on here?
Yeah, that might be a concern. Yeah. Maybe.
It is a weird trend that I never really thought about. Maybe it is just you don't have to worry too much about going for high fidelity.
Some of the design rendering is also,
I mean, like also, like Robo Recall, like you can do things like pull arms off of the robots and stuff like that, which is fun.
Yeah.
But I think it would be unsettling in VR. You know, if I
When
was pulling
yeah.
off humans' arms and stuff like that in the middle of combat.
It should be giant bugs. I agree.
Yeah, giant bugs.
It is a weird trend. P.S. Hal says, I can't believe the Trails of Cold Steel series was left off your top 100 RPGs of all time. I guess I don't remember that. Did Kim,
Blame Kim.
fight for it?
If Kim wanted it on there, we probably would have got it on.
I know she brought
so-
it up at one
I
point.
think she
but-
likes that series. Yeah.
Huh, I'll be damned.
She does.
Nathan from Roanoke, Virginia says, controllers have come a long way, some with good enhancements and some with useless features. I was wondering, what's the next controller innovation you'd like to see?
Let's go back to the Super Nintendo controller. That's what I want.
Yuck.
Hanson hates that controller.
Well, it just drove me insane because
Hanson
we had
doesn't
a
know what he's
feature in the
talking about.
magazine about like top 10 controllers of all time or top 25. I
I
forget what the
remember
hell
that
it was.
feature.
And the Super Nintendo was like way up there. For
And
a
the
good reason.
argument that drove me insane is
It's comfortable.
no,
It
the
really
apes
is.
on staff were like, this is not nostalgia factored in. This
It's
is
not.
today what the most comfortable controller to hold is. And Super Nintendo's like number 1 or 2. Like, there's no universe where the Super Nintendo controller is more comfortable today, nostalgia removed, than a 360 controller.
I think
it's
it
just
is.
bat.
I think it is.
You guys are out of your minds. It's a
It's-
little thin
It's
piece
the
of
ways
crap.
It's
buttons
really great in
aren't-
the hands. It's the perfect size.
Yeah, and the buttons are clickier than they are on the Xbox 360 controller.
More comfortable today, Dan, than a 360
I
controller.
love that controller. too.
Let's
That's
use
crazy
science
town.
to prove this.
Oh my God! How?
But to answer the question, I think Valve was experimenting with tongue controls. Let's see that. I want to see how that works.
it was like I think just one interview that Gabe Newell where he was
It
talking
came
about.
up in the office the other day, didn't it?
I always bring it up because I'm obsessed with it. Maybe I just want to make out with Gabe Newell.
Maybe that's F-stop.
We know you want to.
F-stop is just his dirty tongue.
just Gabe Newell just sticking a controller in his mouth, trying to talk through it to explain what he's doing.
I imagine.
And
for
you can
some-
see I'm manipulating the reticle.
I just had a vision of his tongue looking like the Triceratops tongue from Jurassic Park, where it's got like the crusty stuff on the side.
Ugh.
Just using a
Is
controller.
this
with
what you
that.
think about?
Yes, Dan. This is the only way I feel alive.
All right.
I just remember reading that, like, Gabe was like, yeah, we're experimenting with, like, tongue control. And I was like, oh, how weird is that? But then you're like, wait, your tongue is, you can manipulate the hell out of that
Well, that was
thing.
his
Like,
point. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it could work in a weird way.
The only way people are hearing this through their earbuds while listening to the podcast is because of these controller manipulators.
It's true.
Is that right?
Which is what I call tongues.
All right.
Mine
Oh yeah.
is very quick. Is what Switch has done. By the way, is just a controller that you can snap into and have it.
Yeah, I like that.
So you can, if you're playing an RPG, a long RPG like Persona, you can just kind of lean back. You don't have to have your hands like in front of you.
Still waiting. When do you think we're going to see the first fully customized, like third-party Joy-Con?
Oh.
Like there were those concepts where it's like, hey, we're having like the GameCube thing slide onto the side, or like here's a fishing reel on one side. Are we going to see it
I think
soon?
next year. I don't think we'll
Yeah.
see it this year.
Okay.
I think anyone who's interested in doing that is waiting, you know, in the sidelines to see, like, all right, how many people own Switches here?
Yeah,
You know?
I guess
So
so.
I got to give it some time to
Just like
fill out.
Masuda.
Yep.
Joseph De Maria writes in and says, hey, Ben and GI folks, just wanted to say one of the best moments from the film What About Bob is
Yes.
when Richard Dreyfuss is driving the car with Bob in it, and then he's trying to get Bob to get out of the car, and he just slams the car into the middle of the road in the middle of nowhere, walks around to Bob's side of the car, and then says, just a really good Richard Dreyfuss line.
I thought you were waiting us to
I just-
say the line.
Man.
Like, that's why you had the pause.
well, you guys can remember. Here, Leo, do you want to play that again? Reiner, do you want to give us a clean read of you doing Richard
Yeah,
Dreyfuss?
what is that there? That's get out of
there.
Get out of the
Yeah,
car.
what the hell
out of there. Get out of there.
It's get out of the car.
Get out of the car.
One more time,
Well, he
Leo.
kind of loses the last part.
I closed it. It's gonna be just a second.
Leo, we need that.
He kind of loses the
Yeah, he loses it at the end.
ha,
Yeah.
and it's more of a
Yeah.
It's one
get
long
out
take
of the
too.
get out of the collar.
You know what?
La, la, la.
I'm really glad that we have so many other What About Bob fans. Like that's a big thing to me now. I'm
I was
touched.
thinking about this. I think second favorite Bill Murray movies. What about Bob?
Okay,
I know
I-
it's sacrilegious, but
that might be because
Groundhog Day is number one.
I have to go through
Osmosis
like, the list.
Jones,
Space Jam,
Garfield 2,
Lost,
Tale of
Lost
Two
in
Kitties.
Translation, I think, is one of his better ones.
the one where he played Teddy Roosevelt or whatever.
the Netflix one that I stopped
one
watching
where
after
he
10
plays-
minutes because it was very boring.
the Christmas one.
Yeah.
oh, that one. Oof.
What about what's the
Bob?
the undersea Steve Zissou? Or whatever.
Oh,
Oh,
my
yeah.
God, that movie's
Life
amazing.
Aquatic.
The
you
Life
just
Aquatic.
change Under
Life
Siege
Aquatic.
into Under Steve.
No, no,
I want to see that movie now.
the Life Aquatic. The Life
with-
Aquatic.
He is incredible in Life
Right.
Aquatic.
Life
That's
Aquatic's
that's what I'm
fantastic.
talking about.
What is
Anyway,
the purpose of this expedition? Revenge.
But what about
So
Bob? Is
good.
really good.
Also, I love Jeff Goldblum's line in that movie where he goes, "I'm so pissed I could spit."
The Man Who Knew Too Much, Too Little is kind of funny sometimes.
There's a lot of
Sure.
good ones.
Yeah.
I celebrate his entire catalog.
I
so.
guess he recently went to the musical Groundhog Day on Broadway, and he saw it 2 nights in a row, and I guess he cried.
Oh, I love it.
And everybody reported like, Bill Murray's crying. Everybody, he's watching his own
I think they
movie on
They
stage.
reported on he's back again, doing Groundhog's Day like in real life.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
He knows
Also,
all
think
the
about how
Jeopardy answers.
meta and confusing it would be to be on stage doing the musical version of Broadway or of Groundhog Day and having to do it every night. What a world!
That is pretty
What
meta.
a world.
And Bill Murray's there.
And
every night.
And Bill Murray's there.
Unfortunately, one of the nights, actually the second time he was there, Richard Dreyfuss showed up and walked over to his aisle and then said to him, All right, thank you.
I was ready to pick it up in case Leo wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Jonathan Sutike from Ypsilanti, Michigan. What is that?
Ypsilanti.
Ypsilanti. You posed a question about a character
Punxsutawney
other than
Phil.
Yoda passing away peacefully in Star Wars the other week. Well, I forgot about it until this last show when you read an email about it. Someone wrote in, by the way, Ryan, you missed it, and they said the Republic was the answer, which is beautiful. But they say, now I'm thinking about it again, and this may, okay, it will sound far-fetched, but I'm going to attempt to argue that Darth Vader actually had a peaceful passing. Luke did bat him around with his lightsaber, though I don't believe physical injuries killed him.
He was fried.
Yeah, he was
it's electricity.
he was literally fried by
But
force
he
lightning.
had a good 5 minutes where he could just kind of sit and
Yeah,
chill.
that's
I don't know about 5 minutes, but he
Not
smiled.
peaceful.
Yeah.
His systems are shutting down from the electricity. Yeah, he's dying.
Was he smiling as he died? 'Cause he's like,
Yeah.
I can see your dumb
Because
face.
he loves his kid.
Yeah, wow. Force lightning is probably a terrible way to go. I do not think that.
But
counts as
post
peaceful.
Force Lightning, if you smile seeing your son with your eyes for the first time, I think that counts.
What about, who's the girl with the two pigtail things? What's her name? She was in this Clone Wars.
Mrs. Twi'lek.
Mrs. Twi'lek. I'm looking at you, Reiner. She.
In the Clone Wars?
Yeah.
Come
Wasn't
on.
she?
You mean the one in Jabba's
were only
Palace
talking about
that fell
mainline,
in?
Yeah.
No, the one that trained Anakin.
Yeah. Trained with Anakin.
Oh god, Ahsoka.
Ahsoka. She's in Revenge of the Sith, right? Briefly.
Yes.
Isn't she stabbed through the back? Isn't that
No.
on
That's
the
a different
mushroom
character.
planet? That's a different character.
Yeah.
Well, what about that
That's
character?
stupid.
Because they didn't see it coming, and they probably died instantly.
But
and
they
were
saw
looking-
it coming.
No.
No, it
She didn't
hurts.
fight back?
The point
Being
is that it hurt.
lightsabered is not a peaceful death.
I'm just saying, if it's
God.
instant, then she was like, "Oh, look at these lovely mushroom plants," and then her life.
Well, that's what
No.
we talked a little bit about.
I
but
think
yeah, I think Kit
There's a
Fisto died
serious
a noble death.
distinction of peaceful. This is crazy.
Yeah.
If you're killed in
Like,
combat, that's
You're
not
talking
a
about
peaceful
like
death.
dying in your sleep situation.
We're talking, yeah,
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Like Yoda.
like Yoda. Yoda's the defining example here.
Okay,
Dan, would you rather die from Force Lightning or one atomic bomb landing right on your head?
Oh,
this is a hard question.
That is-
This is a very easy
It's
question.
a super easy question.
Force lightning.
Dan hates atomic bombs for some reason.
yeah, I'm really against.
Oh,
them.
wait. Oh, Dan, you hate atomic bombs? You're such a fool.
I'm really against nuclear weaponry. I know it's a strong opinion.
I mean,
but,
that's what I took away from Metal Gear Solid. Going into it, I was like, atomic weaponry is awesome.
Right. But then afterwards,
I was
you
like,
said,
it's not awesome.
frankly, if I ever see a nuclear weapon around here, I'm going to walk up to that nuclear weapon and I'm only going to say one phrase to it. And that phrase is...
Get out of the car.
Leo's missing the beat here.
Always have it on cue.
That was a really good impression, though, of Leo just going, get out of the car, please.
No, I'm excited by this question.
Yeah.
Force lightning, because that means you are so badass that you got into the villain's lair, because only Sith users
yeah.
are shooting lightning. That means you're in the heart of the bad guy's
So you'd
base.
rather die from Force Lightning.
Yeah,
Only
you
master
came close. Like you
badasses.
were super
It
close.
would melt your face and give it butt wrinkles like the Emperor.
Still.
looks
no,
like
you
it
don't get
hurts
butt
a
wrinkles
lot.
from it, man.
I think everybody... I'm surprised Vader didn't have butt wrinkles. He was
Yeah,
electrocuted
you don't
almost
get
as much.
butt
He kind of
wrinkles.
did.
He was
Well,
electrified
he had
as
a,
much.
He had a nice char to
Oh,
him,
God.
I guess.
beforehand, which really helped.
Mike from Maine says, hello, crew. This can't be a popular opinion. I can't believe I'm thinking it myself. But Darth Vader's costume needs a bit of an overhaul. I loved Rogue One much more than I thought I would. It did a great job reinterpreting the 70s design without it standing out much, except when Vader comes walking out in his padded PJs. There are moments in that movie where they made Vader terrifying again, but when they dwell on him in the light, you wonder why no Jedi couldn't... I'm sorry. Why
Revenge of the Jedi.
Why
My
no-
favorite movie.
God damn it, Kyle. Why no Jedi couldn't crack that flimsy dome on his head? The movie could have kept its 70s-ish aesthetic with his costume while also updating his vertically stitched romper from 40 years ago. Can something that iconic ever be touched?
I have an answer for this question. Leo hit it.
Nah,
Get
that
out
wasn't
of
the
the
right
car.
time.
That didn't
Hang
work.
on, give it a clean,
I don't get it.
clean take.
Uh,
hang on, let's get Leo, pop it.
That's my only answer to this question.
First,
That's what you want.
Is this what you want? Just screaming from the booth.
God, that's terrible.
first, butts don't really wrinkle. So I don't know what you're referencing.
Tell that to my butt.
Oh, okay. 2, no, you can't.
Get it up on the mic. Let's talk to it.
Hello, Butt-Wrinkle. No, you can't. You can't change that, especially in that era, right? It has to be the same because that's the connecting tissue, right?
It's canonical for that.
And I love it. Help me out. This is my own read. I've never really looked into it, but the New Hope and also the Rogue One Vader, there's like a red tint to his eyes. They lose that in Empire and Jedi, right?
They do, yeah. So they
Jedi.
went back to the red tint in Rogue One.
I love that red tint.
I do too. But to his point, I will say this. You can't change Vader because his story's done at this point, right? But one of my biggest problems with Star Wars is technology not evolving. Like, you got BB-8 who looks like a new droid, but why would you keep around C-3PO and R2D? It's like keeping around your first iPod. You know, like, you don't do that. Like,
it's because
have you seen Baby Driver?
It's because the rebellion is scrappy, Reiner. They don't have all these resources. They got to use what they have.
It is silly trying to track like how advanced the system got from like the prequels to the original trilogy, and then thinking about like, but wait, Old Republic was like also the exact same tech.
Yeah, why would you keep that stuff for? I don't know.
I keep my old hard drives. I have old hard drives. That's like keeping an old droid around, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
There's on the Cracked has a great podcast. He's just on that one where they talked about Star Wars tech and like just information in Star Wars, how it's always confusing because there's so little displayed on the monitors, and just they had some theory about how that would have ramifications across the entire galaxy versus like they're not able to convey that much information because their system of writing just isn't that advanced, and that's what's holding down information technology and whatnot. Anyways, Roseville, Minnesota, Scott lives there, and he wrote in and says, "Dear Game Informer crew, while playing certain games with subtitles on, I've noticed that there is a significantly small amount of time and attention paid to when the subtitles appear on the screen in relation to when they're being spoken. Oftentimes, a big dramatic reveal or a good joke that relies on timing is ruined because the entire sequence or even several sentences were slapped on screen all at once. Not accounting for any pauses that speaker takes, the player is able to read what the character is about to say several seconds before they actually say it. It really blows it. I was wondering if this has bothered any of you before, if any of you have ever brought it up with the developer." Yeah, what drives me insane is the ellipses. Where there's like voice acting, and then there's always a long pause when it should be that a character is interrupting another character. That's what I mean by ellipses, right? So then the character's reading it, you know they're going to be interrupted, but then the timing doesn't work out, and you have to hit A, then go to the next thing, and then it's like, but here's what I think about this. But in regards to this made me think of Mark MacDonald, who's going to be coming up on the show later on in that 8-4 interview. But he did this exact thing you're talking about with Metal Gear Solid 4. When he first went to Japan, he talked about it on the Kojima Productions podcast, which is very good back in the day. He talked about like how obsessed he was with not stepping on any reveals and making sure the spacing was just right with the subtitles in Metal Gear Solid 4 specifically. So people do care, especially localization teams.
Hellblade is a weird one because I think it's pretty clear what happened is that they let the actors kind of take the lines, and do what they wanted with them. And what that means is like the subtitles aren't lining up a lot with like the sort of the brunt of what is being said is coming through in the subtitles, but they're actually saying it differently, which I feel like I don't see a lot. Like I wonder if they just put the script into the subtitle, whatever magic machine, or if they really tried to go through and transcribe all of it. I don't know. Hey, Hanson, remember the time we saw Men in Black 3 and it was subtitled?
What are you talking about?
We went and saw Men in Black 3 in the theaters, and for some reason it had subtitles, the whole movie.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It clearly left an impression on you.
Yeah, different Hanson, maybe.
That's really confusing. No, I definitely was there.
Yeah. Because we had a discussion afterward. It was like, was it funnier because we saw all the punchlines coming? I'm not sure.
Oh, that's really weird.
You don't remember this at all?
I don't. I remember seeing the movie.
Yeah, but it's a very memorable movie.
It's pretty deep.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Anyways,
sorry I brought it up.
Gray from Lexington, Kentucky says, Ben and GI crew, hello. I was just curious, do any of you have a guilty pleasure TV show? He really likes watching Bachelorette. Real quick, House Hunters is the most watchable show on TV. I dare you to turn it off. It is always a delight.
Shark Tank. I watch a lot of Shark Tank.
Okay.
I like that one where they're all like naked out in the wild trying to survive.
Dantex Home Movies.
That too. I mean, that one's a little bit more risque, but yeah.
Reiner?
Old school Stargate. I watch those all the time, and then I watch RuPaul's Drag Race with my wife. That show is super funny and cool.
Hey, speaking of TV shows, you ready to combine everything here? Did you know that they pitched and made a pilot for NBC, a revival of What About Bob, except it's called like What About Rebecca or something, and it was a girl. Yes, 100%. And then they didn't take it, but that pilot exists out there.
Oh my god,
and we're going to see it.
Yeah.
All right, Sophie Evans, friend of the show, says, "What's your opinion on complaining and the mindset of complaining? For this, I'm not
Generally?
thinking about games specifically, but the notion of complaining about a day-to-day things like your job, etc., is it inherently good or bad? Should we try to limit it as much as possible? This is a broad question, but I dig it.
I actually like personally try not to complain very much because once I start complaining, then I kind of just bring myself down. It's kind of like just trying to remain optimistic. So it takes a lot for me to start complaining because it's just going to make things worse once I start complaining.
I only
if that makes
complain
sense.
in Slack messages directly to Kyle.
Yeah.
In all caps.
We
saying,
have our
what the
special
hell is
channel.
wrong with these people?
Yeah.
One of the things I hate is there's certain people I talk to where I'll be like, hey, you went and saw that movie last night? What'd you think? And they they think the movie's amazing, but they lead with the negativity. That drives me bonkers. And then it often kind of takes the conversation in that direction rather than like reflecting on why this movie mattered.
Interesting.
It happens all the time. And you see it online too. Like a new game comes out and people immediately just take to the negativity. Like Hellblade just came out and they're immediately like, what? The save thing? And nobody even knows if it's real, but that's all they're talking about with Hellblade.
Yeah. Well, you're an optimistic guy in general, Reiner.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you thought the movie was amazing. Lead with that. Not the one little kernel in there that you found that is not right.
Yeah,
right?
it ties into
that
it.
drives me bonkers.
It ties in a larger point, but just you don't have to have an opinion on everything online. I feel like Jeff Kurtzman talked about it one time on Giant Bomb. It really stood with me, or it's just like, or stuck with me. Just talking about like every little detail, every announcement from a movie, every trailer. Everyone feels the need to weigh in online. Like it's fine. Just don't put your opinion out there. It's not the end of the world. I don't know where that compulsion comes from. Just like a desperate need for attention of everyone and be like, look how they ruined the costume in Justice League. Who cares? Yeah, they're all fine.
They're all fine.
But yeah, complaining. I mean, you see it all the time in comments and stuff. I do it a lot myself. But where it gets so fun, and this is a deep hole that I like going down, but just like really low-level social media accounts. Like I'm obsessed with this one frozen pizza creator in Minneapolis here who makes a very mediocre pizza.
Are you talking about like corporate Twitter accounts?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you go and check out their like replies, and they just spend all their days responding to people who tweet pictures of their crappy frozen pizza and say, this was subpar. And like, oh, we're so sorry. How can we make it up for you? It's like, who's tweeting about their subpar frozen pizza? Or it goes into that thing where like people leave reviews on national parks and be like, 1 star for Grand Canyon. There's too many mosquitoes. It's like, who are you monsters?
Yeah.
Just stop it.
They'll put that bad pizza, but not the good ones.
Yes.
Right?
There we go.
Yeah.
It's fun to
Polluting
complain.
negativity. I hate it.
Also, if you want to kill yourself, do the same thing.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Okay, but look at like United's mentions or any airlines mentions, or not
God.
mentions, but like who they're replying to. It's their entire lives is just responding to complete people tagging airlines, which is also a pet peeve of mine. Like you have to really F up for me to tag an airline on Twitter in an average tweet to complain about my flight was late. Give me attention for it, United. Like you're not adding anything to anybody's day by broadcasting the crap out there.
I don't know if
Now
they're
what
trying to
I'm
add it
noticing,
today, that
Hanson.
they're upset about something.
Well, then they can call up United or tweet directly
you get better,
at them.
you get better customer service from the tweet.
Tack, are you one of those people?
I've tweeted about an airline experience. Not for being late. There was vomit on the.
You suck
would-
it up.
Suck it.
The vomit?
Yes.
No, you complain about that.
I think you
And
do that in private.
Some of this stuff happens because I think you're more likely to interact with the company if you're having a negative experience than a positive one.
Of course.
So there's just that inherent disconnect there. Like obviously you're going to see a lot of negative stuff rather than like, hey, I went to a hotel, it was nice. I don't have to tweet them about that. I do have to tweet them if like, there was roaches in my room.
You don't
you
have to
call the
tweet
front
them
desk
about
for
that.
You're trying to make that public when you do that. You could go to the front desk and be like, this is BS. Give me the corporation's number.
At a hotel, I would. On an airline, it's a different story because you are not going to get good customer.
Well, don't
you're gonna
bother
wait
your
4
followers
hours
with that.
No, you tweet them directly. I don't do it like
That's what I'm saying.
right. I do that, but you will get better customer service tweeting at them than you will waiting on the phone for 4 hours. For all the airlines I use,
And Hanson,
Yeah.
quit going through all those mentions. You're spending too much time.
Yeah,
That-
you're right.
that's really weird, isn't it?
Yeah, because you're hunting down that negativity then.
I think it's fascinating.
You also read every YouTube comment. Like
I do.
Not even just Game Informer.
I do
just
too.
all of them.
No, I really do read every.
I do
No,
too.
I know.
YouTube comment.
Not a
They're
joke.
fascinating.
You used to send me the really negative ones, and then you stopped.
Turns out people don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like it when someone attacks me directly and you take
That
a
Kyle
screen cap
guy's
of it and
terrible.
send it to
Oh,
me.
I'm sending that to him.
Yeah. I think it's funny if it's so outlandish and
Yeah.
dickish.
Yeah.
I think it becomes funny. At
I
a
agree
certain
with you
point.
there. If it's totally ridiculous, then I will see it and I will laugh at it. But there were a couple that you sent me. I was like, this isn't that. This is just like attacking me and my family. Like, I don't want to see that.
I thought it was funny.
It was hilarious.
Danny from Glasgow, Scotland. That's Scotland, Dan. Says,
I know. Thanks.
how do you archive your gaming history, and what do you need to experience in a game for you to consider it a game that you've technically played, whether it be completion, a brief understanding of premise, or some other factor? I love this question. When do you say you've played a game? I always think about this like going to a studio, which I do a lot for these cover story trips. People will be like, oh, did you ever play, what's a good example? Did you ever play Advanced Warfare? And like, oh, yeah. But when it comes down to like how much did you have to have played for you to say yes?
The line of qualification between like, yeah, I played a lot of Call of Duty. I didn't finish it. Like, I need to see credits.
Not a lot of, but if somebody asked you, have you played Infinite Warfare?
Yeah.
Did you finich it?
No. I would tell them exactly what I played. I would say I played the first 2 levels.
Yeah, I think context is really important to this question. Like,
but for that flat statement, I played Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, I need to see the credits.
I just need to have some memory or opinion on what I played. And then if it's like a casual conversation, I'll say, yeah, I played it. Just so we can move on if they have a point to make about it. That's I have a very low bar. I'm not going to lie about it.
Yeah,
if they ask how far I got, I'll tell them. But just like, yeah, sure, I played it. Let's move on. I get what you're talking about here. Mm-hmm. Reiner, what about you? You're a big completionist, right?
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of cataloging, or what did you say, archiving?
Yeah.
I keep track of all the games I finished, and that's kind of what Kyle's saying. It's the credits, right? Like, it's not getting 100% or all the achievements or whatever, or trophies. But so I release that every year. Every January, I'll post that. January 1st, I'll get that up there of what I played that year. So that is kind of my definition of playing the game. It's like seeing a movie. You don't leave halfway through. You say, I got to go see that movie then, you know, like, but it's really hard, as Dan's saying too. It's, did you play Call of Duty? And it's like, yes, you played the campaign, but you didn't play multiplayer. You know, like, there's so many different avenues of play in these games now that it becomes kind of a loaded question.
And it changes too, like especially with games that get updated frequently, like Hearthstone or World of Warcraft.
Sure.
Like, did you play WoW? Yeah. You could say yes, and maybe
anything. Yeah.
Games are just f***ed right now. Seriously, like, I mean, that is a fair point. Like,
get rid of them.
A year from now, a game could be completely different.
That's exactly right.
I mean, and so you could talk to your friend about it, and both of you looking at each other like you're crazy because your experiences are completely different.
Yeah.
Just don't talk to anyone who's played games anymore. That's the whole thing.
Just email podcasts.
Like, there's so many examples that meet those exact like Rainbow Six. Like now, it's just obscene, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no qualifier between those. It's like,
well, Ken Pittman has a good follow-up question from Issaquah, Washington. He just says, "Do you like video games?" Apparently, the answer is no, because they're f***ed.
They're
according to Reiner.
They're my favorite thing.
Really? Is that true, Kyle?
Yes.
Wait, what?
After Family,
I would rank Family, video games, and then number 3 is just this one quote that I can't get out of my head from What About Bob? Drew Mulkin, otherwise known as Lazy Penguin, writes in and says, "Hello, GI crew. The Nintendo Switch has been out for a little while now, and I was wondering if you could change one thing about the Switch, what would it be? For me, it would be the digital triggers. As an avid racing game fan, the lack of analog triggers kills any hopes I had for any serious racing games on this system." Here's a great point. "It also makes me think that there might not be any GameCube games on the system whenever they get a virtual console, because the GameCube had a 2-stage trigger for the analogs." P.S. Hang on a sec. P.S. Is there any chance you guys could start putting the audio podcast for download on SoundCloud or Spreaker? We're on SoundCloud. I put it up there every week. Spreaker, I don't know what that is, so
that
probably
sounds made
not.
up.
But it is on SoundCloud.
Wait, the logo is like a little asterisk. I think I know what he's talking about. I've just never heard it pronounced. I've only ever seen it
I think
written
that's
out.
Kurt Vonnegut's butthole.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, boy.
Anyways, the Switch. What is one thing you'd like to change?
Transfer save files.
Really? That's important to you?
Yeah.
Why?
Because my Zelda save file is on a different Switch.
The phone voice technology.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I would make it more powerful and $100 more.
Boom.
Oh, you want that Switch
change.
X?
I mean, I want all my third-party games from PS4 and Xbox One on there. But when you talk to those devs, they're like, not going to happen.
You know what? Actually, here's a small one. I actually would like the headphone jack to be on the Joy-Con instead of the tablet.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, I'm sure it's very difficult, but like, I would like, because I tend to play games by plugging headphones into my controllers lately, and I would like to do it on my Switch. I think they say that they're addressing this in updates, but it still does it for me. Every time if I'm playing like a PS4 or something, or on my PC, and then I put the Switch back in the dock, it'll switch the input on my TV automatically to go to input 3, which is the Switch, which is very frustrating. That's your TV. That's not the Switch.
But it doesn't do it for any other console when it turns on.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, then I don't know. They did update it recently, because I know a problem that a lot of people were having. which I ran into too. Mine doesn't automatically switch my TV, but if it senses that a new input is in, it'll like flash on screen. It'll be like, hey, do you want to switch to this input? And a problem with the Switch was it would just kind of like, to make sure it was on or charging, it would like kind of check every now and then to see if it was plugged in. So I would be just watching a movie or something and be like, do you want to switch to input 3? I was like, no, I don't do that. But they've updated the system, so that's not an issue anymore.
Interesting.
I would also make a separate store for just the Neo Geo game.
A separate store.
Call it the Primo Crop.
What if you could just
they're not
just
in there.
buy a Neo Geo branded Switch that like you only have access to that store?
Yeah.
With
You
that
did
system?
it. You guys, Neo Geo, AC, what is it, ACA? You released enough games, you deserve your own store.
There you go.
You have polluted that marketplace.
That is so
your games are fun.
They
but
need to put
are
something
everywhere.
on there, Ryder. They need to put something on there.
Maybe
What are you
Nintendo could put their old
So they
games
were like,
on there.
Maybe. That's a
that'd
crazy
be
idea.
See,
though.
we
That's a
need to put
crazy
something
idea.
on here. Oh, I know. How about every Neo Geo game?
Eureka. Eureka.
One
Mr.
a
Milo.
week.
I would change also the Wi-Fi signal is just garbage.
Yeah.
Like I need to wander around my house so many times it just can't detect the signal, and no other appliance or console has a problem with it.
That's your metal wrist.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Do you have a
true.
fish tank?
Yeah, I'm surrounded
Yeah,
by
the
fish
fish
tanks.
are, the fish are designed to teach him empathy.
Oh, that's right.
Right?
And that's what we call full circle. What do you guys like for email of the week?
I don't know if there was any standouts.
Damn,
What?
will you stop
Dude, they
insulting
were
our
all
community?
good.
Look at this complainer.
I
Let's do
apologize.
the complainer email.
That's an analysis of content. That's not a complaint.
I think these are the best
Ooh,
emails
now
we've
he's
ever had.
throwing shade our way.
Dan, what the hell's wrong with you?
I assume a lot, man.
I
You
actually, well, I guess I didn't foster a lot of conversation, but I do like the underrated villain because I like thinking about
Yeah.
like characters that I like that aren't like front and center. You
I
know?
also was leaning that way. Yeah, a lot of good stuff. Some of them from overseas, which we can't ship out to, which is sad. But yeah, you want to go with Sam C from Utah with the villain question?
Sure.
That was good.
All right, Sam C, we love you. Dan Tack, you okay with this?
I'm outvoted even if I'm not.
Do you
So
have
what
a-
would you prefer?
Nothing stood out to me, so I'm okay with it.
But the emails are all great, Ren.
Yeah, hey, normally I have a go-to one. You know that. But like I just
We all know
nothing
that.
really
Yeah,
stood
we
out.
know that about you.
Yeah, we know
Anyways,
it.
thank you so much, Sam, and everybody else that wrote in. We'll ship you out something real nice. But for now, stay tuned for a very informative interview filmed with 8-4's equipment for podcasting, which is very nice. Thank you, JJ, and everybody over there for letting us invade your office.
J.J. Abrams?
That's right.
man.
Yeah, he
Wow.
set it up for us. Also, for the video version, first time you'll see a video podcast from 8-4, which is exciting. Filmed with my phone.
That's right.
Uh,
I'm hiding behind you the whole time.
man.
That's
you can
right.
hear me, but you can't see.
So, yeah, that's weird, Kyle. So we have John Ricciardi and Mark MacDonald coming up in an interview, so stay tuned for that. Mark and John, welcome to the Game Over Show, guys.
Oh my god, I was picking my nose.
It's wild. We're going to dive right in. Here we go.
Oh my god.
This is filmed, so they know you're lying.
Yeah. ambushed.
We got everybody
No,
here.
I literally was just picking
Oh,
my
I
nose.
just wasn't paying
Check the
attention.
video.
Hey, Kyle Hilliard's here too, everybody.
Hey, I'm here.
Welcome. We're in Japan, recording on 8-4's equipment, thanks to the wonderful JJ for setting this up. Thank you, JJ. You're welcome. Fantastic work. Hey. We're in Japan. Wonderful to see you guys.
Yes.
You're always so welcoming to everybody that goes through Japan.
Oh, I'm glad you guys are stopping by. I don't work here either, but
I dragged you out just to work
so
here.
so I also will say thank you for being so welcoming.
It's really confusing
me.
but amazing because Tokyo is one of the greatest cities on earth. Maybe the greatest, John. I don't know if you'd say that.
I'm a fan. Yeah, I've
All
been
right.
here for like 17 years, so you could say I like the place.
Yeah. But you guys, you treat it like people are just swinging by, and you are so welcoming to everybody that comes by. Just like it feels like when someone comes to Minneapolis to visit us, it's a miracle. Like, oh, we got to show you the best Minneapolis has to offer. And it seems like you guys have that same hunger for like wanting to be inviting to everybody that comes to Japan.
It's funny, we both used to work at Sendai/Ziff, the old, for your older listeners.
Very old listeners.
Yes, worked at this magazine called Electronic Gaming Monthly. It doesn't exist anymore. But we both worked there, and press people showing off their game, whoever would come through, and they always were stopping by Game Informer, and we were in Chicago. Most of the industry is on one of the coasts. Most of them are on the West Coast. And so it'd always be like, oh, well, we just stopped by Game Informer. They took us out to a steakhouse, and we went to, this whatever place.
God,
and
the Mississippi River's badass.
Hooters and whatever. And we're like, all right, well, we have to like f***ing step it up and show a little more hospitality to people. But
And that's where it comes from. You think it just carries over then?
no, I don't.
No, actually, we're just desperate and lonely, and
That's
you
right.
scroll through, and it's like, oh my god, we can talk to people.
I'm actually a little upset that you guys are swinging through on such a whirlwind. You guys are like here for like 12 hours or something. You probably spend more time on the fucking plane
Yeah.
than you do here. You're
It's
here
true.
for such a short short
Kyle
time.
doesn't even get to be jet lagged. Like he's already back on the plane by the time anything possibly kicks in for him.
And
It's
this
gonna
is
be great.
your first time in Japan.
It's my first time
Kyle.
here. Yeah.
So
Nice.
what say you so far?
Review it.
There's a surprising dearth of trash cans,
Yes.
which I thought Hanson was joking about, but that's
I tried
actually
to
the
warn him.
case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It's
a good.
confusing.
That's one of those things that you don't read in the tour books, man.
I also Hanson gave me
It's
the
a
warning of like you're gonna want to buy everything you see in Akihabara, and I was like immediately I was like, well, yeah, I gotta buy all this stuff.
Because
And
it's a terrible impulse. Because you walk in and then it's like, oh my god, I recognize this anime. I'm gonna buy all these toys. Like, just wait and try and get some read of what's
Yeah.
rare, what's not
Yeah.
here.
I have to buy every one of these little woman in a seashell coin gotchas.
That is
Yeah,
a
really
long, dangerous road to start to go down because you're like, oh, there's this one, vegetable that's committing suicide in some funny way. I just have to own it, and then it's like, well, wait, maybe I have to own them all,
Yeah.
and then I have to own all the vegetables doing all the different, funny things that they do. And
I know you guys are very busy, but if you ever want like a very lucrative side project, you could just start up why don't you just write a book about like the gamer's guide to Japan, right? And you have people come here, and then you just okay, here's where you should definitely go to in Akihabara. Super Potato is, I mean,
Yeah.
under the radar, but not quite fully under the radar yet. Maybe there's spaces beyond that. Here's where, Nintendo Legends used to eat lunch every day.
See,
Any
if
place
there's,
that wouldn't.
if there's demand for a book for Where is the Place to Go in 1998, I
Right.
think we could write that book.
No, but I think
But-
that still stands true because people, I mean, nerds like us, I think would be into of just like, oh, this is where they would go and eat lunch every day and brainstorm Metroid. Just
Right.
little
Right.
things like that. I think people would want to
Oh,
see those
you're-
legacy
you heard-
places.
you're a
you remember
podcast
that
listener.
story, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, to go back a couple topics you were talking about being in Akihabara, and I was just thinking that impulse to buy everything and whatever. Before we both lived here, I would come over, and so would John on press junkets on trips for like Tokyo Game Show used to be twice a year. I don't know if you know that, but it was.
I had no idea.
It's weird.
It was
yeah.
in March.
There was
and
one in
September.
spring, and then there was one in the fall.
It was the PAX.
It was twice a year, yeah, and it was great because you were pretty much guaranteed at least 2 trips to Japan for that. That changed pretty soon after I started doing writing. Well, and then there was Space World, which was a little before my time too. But anyway, you could chart I would go with John, and John would be like, "Oh, you have to buy this. Did you know like?" Contra had different music, like the Japanese card version had a different chip and whatever. It's like, are you serious? Okay, I guess I have to buy that. And I mean, it's just that like 100 times in one day. And so like the first couple trips and the trips that I took before I had met John too, I would just go back with these suitcases, literally like extra suitcases just full of stuff, and then slowly over time it would slowly whittle down. Towards the end we would just go and like look at stuff and be like, okay, yeah, I don't think there's anything I don't know.
But what is that endgame stuff that you're hunting for then?
Well, you mean the stuff that now?
Sure.
I lost all my shit in a tragic storage closet mishap that I won't go into here, but I still look at the super graphics stuff. That system has like a weird fascination to me. It's very collectible because I think there was like 5 or 6 games total, including one that's kind of not specific for the system but does better for the system, the Gradius, which is really hard to find.
And this is just nostalgia on your part? You
Darius,
just played a lot of it back
Darius,
in the day?
but I mean, partially one of my favorite shooters for that system, Aldines, is a really just honestly great game. That's the only way to play it. But that still holds like nostalgia for me. A lot of PC Engine stuff that never came over to America. I don't know what else weird.
Back in the day, I remember like when I first came here, there were like a bunch of things. Well, there was probably like 1,000 things that I had to have because what did I know? But like the big ones were like had to get a copy of Rondo of Blood, the Castlevania for PC Engine, like
Okay,
a real
yeah.
one.
Right.
And that was, and then there was like Radiant Silvergun for Saturn, which maybe came out when we were like actually had already started coming here, but that was like one that you had to get because it was like
Yeah.
rare and expensive and like.
I mean, there's the standbys like the 64DD, like the stuff that you'll actually see on a shelf here, and you'll be like, oh my god, I could just buy it right now.
Yeah.
64DD, the disc system is a huge
Yep.
like people's first Akihabara trip. That's kind of one where you're like, oh, you see the disc system games of Metroid.
my first trip
and-
here, I actually bought a new disc system. Like it was the very tail end where you could still find them in certain places and like with the packing games and everything. So that was like one of my early treasures.
And not the twin, but the actual like
the actual Famicom disc system.
That connected to the
came with
old
like ice
school
hockey and like one other
and-
game I forget. But
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, you guys are so busy over here, and you still have time to podcast with 8-4 Play and get together. Even after John left 8-4 to go to Enhanced Games, still.
And Mark.
I'm sorry, Mark.
We get don't worry. We get mixed up all.
No,
we get
but
ourselves
still,
mixed up.
You come back and do the podcast, and so why stay podcasting? What's the thrill of podcasting?
I don't know,
for you
man.
guys?
I don't know. No, it's the money. Are you kidding me? And the women. I mean, the power, the just absolute celebrity that comes with it. How can I ever give that up?
What is it? Why have this setup that takes up half your office?
No, I mean it's the reason.
It's usually the mics are not out like this, so you know, we actually do close it down and like turn this into something of a meeting table.
That's not really true. It usually is. It's just like this. It usually stays like this.
Well,
between if a meeting comes by, then maybe you'll move this stuff.
Yeah, this
away,
is the
but-
meeting table then. It fully converts.
It's a lot of tables. It does a lot. Like the people who work here, our furniture wears many hats as well. And so yeah, we do the podcast here. We also have meetings here. We also like do like sometimes we'll eat here. Like it's not a giant office. You can't see the whole other tower, but they're not very large.
Fucking dispel the illusion, man. The 8-4 Towers. This is just the
parts
podcast section of the
that we
office.
show to the public.
Yeah, we can't bring you to the inner sanctum is a whole different like bunker.
Absolutely. Monkeys
Yeah.
on typewriters working on Undertale. Yeah, it's a whole
All
thing.
it's all like your recording equipment wouldn't work in there. It's all very secure and locked down. Nobody could ever break in.
Do you think it's just coming from press roots though? You want to constantly have that slight angle just to give your opinion out there? Is just really satisfying for you guys, or what is it?
I think that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Basically, we get to do all the parts of the kind of media stuff we used to do that we actually enjoyed without having to follow any of the rules or be beholden to any of the like requirements involved because
Or
it's
get
just,
paid for it.
or get
though.
paid for
I mean,
which is true.
Yeah.
We definitely do it for love because
Yeah.
it's not like
That's why we still do it, because it doesn't make sense. I mean, and props especially to 8-4. I mean, I give up my time, but 8-4 also. I mean, sometimes we'll have to do it early, and like it cuts into the workday, and then JJ
spends like a day a week basically like working on podcasts.
edits it, and like people do news and
Hype train episodes alone. Oh, good lord.
like that's like a team of 20 people. Ben, team of 20 people takes a week to make that happen. It's we don't like to talk about that because we don't want to toot our own horn, but seriously, like. The podcast hosting is not expensive, but it's not free.
Yeah.
And like
Even
all,
partnering
all
with
of that
Giant Bomb,
stuff.
it's still.
Yeah, no, I mean that, and we love that. That's awesome, but that's purely them like hosting us and getting the word out and stuff like that. But we want to be able to see the metrics and who's downloading and all that stuff anyway. And so we were using the same solution that we were using before, but. I will say it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. One thing that we do run into a lot of times is that we have not played like the latest game because like, oh, this person bought it and this person didn't and whatever. Like, it wouldn't be terrible if I mean, every podcast is on Patreon now, and
Interesting.
we should make T-shirts or something.
Oh,
I don't know.
I thought
been pushing for a while.
I thought this was going to be a plea to all the publishers who watch the Game Informer show to send us games. I didn't realize it was going to be
That too,
these
yeah,
two.
that'll work too. Actually, we do get. I mean, we get stuff from a fair number of folks. Nintendo, Sony sends us a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. So yeah, but we were doing that when I was here, and it was never I mean, it loses money. It absolutely loses money. It'd be fine. I mean, I think it'd be nice with broke even at least. But I don't work here, and 8-4 still hosts it, which is cool. So like, all I do is give my time. So
why keep doing it? Do you think it's a net positive? I understand like there's always the risk.
Oh no, that's
of, like,
why. That's because
course.
we just enjoy it. We love doing it.
Yeah.
It's just fun. It's good to let off steam. We work pretty hard. We work a lot of hours, all of us. I mean, Mark still does, even though he's not at 8-4 anymore. Like, we're all kind of super busy people. And so being able to, I think, just get together and drink and, like, talk about games. And again, there's kind of no rules. I mean, we're not out to make a bad podcast, but we're also not, like, sitting here making tons of plans and, like, getting everything set up beforehand. Like, we kind of just come in and just talk about whatever's on our mind, and that's it. And it's fun.
And you do a good job of constantly couching it with like, hey, all these opinions are bought and sold for. We're trying to get
Exactly.
Sure.
And do you feel like it's been overall, as far as publisher relations, positive or negative? Do people ever reach out and be like, "Oh, we love your podcast. We're more interested in working with you now"?
No,
Really?
we have tons of, which is super. I mean, that kind of keeps us going too. I feel like lots of. I mean, to the point where like it's almost getting scary because like some of would probably have insulted some of our listeners.
No, it's good that I forget. I forget after every podcast. Like somebody will comment to me on Twitter who works somewhere that I've commented on their game, and I'll be like, "Oh man!" And then I don't know what it is. Maybe because we're drinking pretty much every fucking podcast, but it just completely forget it by the next podcast. And then we say stuff.
Yeah,
all
I
over
won't.
again,
Of course, won't say what game it is, but I still remember that one. There was like one year when like Mark had just done one of his like crazy like tirades against a game, and then like we were at E3, and then like who sits down next to the table? Our friend is like, "Oh, I want to introduce you to my friend." It was like the director of the game that he just like destroyed.
Oh, really? Tell me.
Yeah.
I honestly don't even remember who that is.
I'm not gonna say.
Tell me
after
we record.
But
this.
that sort of thing happens. But no, I mean, yeah, we get we have a lot of. I think we probably have a lot of industry listeners, and that's nice, and that's
And it's gotten. I mean, even when I was here, some projects would come along and they'd be like, "Yeah, I heard you guys talking about stuff on the podcast," because we do talk about localization stuff. That's 8.4's bread and butter. It's not all that 8.4 does, but that's kind of the bread and butter. And I think a lot of people hear hopefully like thoughtful opinions about localization, or people who at least are really thinking about localization a lot, and are like, let's give them a shot or whatever. And,
sure.
It seems like you guys are leaning into that a little bit more. I always hope that you guys capture your specialty more and more. But I mean, an episode not too long ago, you talked about the origins of Fire Emblem's localization, which was fascinating. I'd imagine difficult, and a lot of emails back and forth to actually pull it together and bring people out of the treehouse to make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, Nintendo was awesome. Actually, Nintendo came to us about that. I mean, we've been coming to them for years, like trying to get them to come on the show. But
years.
We literally ask them almost every time we see them, and we see them a lot. But this
and
time,
they want to, but it's just, you know how it is. I mean, you guys get a lot of guests on your podcast too, which I think is an awesome part of your show. But I mean, every time, and they all wanted to, and they're all really interesting, smart people at the Treehouse, and so it's just a matter of like getting all the timing and stuff to work out. But
and it made sense. We worked on the game, and we worked with those guys directly, so it wasn't just like 100% like PR thing or whatever. Like we actually got to talk about stuff that I think we all found kind of interesting, which is important. So.
But also, we always felt self-conscious about it. We were always like, "Oh, this is just us being selfish and talking about this stuff." But
who else has that perspective? No other podcast out there.
But we got that basic feedback, like constantly, over and over and over. People are like, "Don't talk about the please do talk more about the inside baseball stuff and all the localization stuff and whatever." And so finally, absolutely, because of that feedback, we felt kind of empowered to be like, "Oh, okay, well, like this game came out, let's do like a deep dive into it." And then that Treehouse opportunity came up, which was really cool.
Well, how often does it just come down to the publisher probably wouldn't want us to talk about that? Like, I think there was an episode recently we were talking about Nier Automata, and then it was like, "Oh yeah, Roy over there has been quiet, knows Nier better than anybody on planet Earth." It's like, all right, but let's move on. It's like, wait, what? Like, let's unload every brilliant thought Roy possibly has about Nier.
Actually, because I assumed I was gone, I think, when Nier came out. Yeah, I was gone for that month, and then I came back and I was like, "Oh, they've talked about to death about Nier. I'm sure they've talked about it or whatever." And they were like, "Nah, we didn't really dive really deep
outside
into
it." You do a good job of laying out "Hey, we're really proud of this one. Definitely check it out."
Sure,
and I love that. I wish more outlets in general, and even podcasts like this, say "Hey, we're really proud of this one. Check it out." And I think you do a good job of conveying that message. But why not go into the nitty gritty of Nier Automata's localization?
Well, to be honest, for me, and he's asked me the same question. I think for me, so I should backtrack. And just one thing about our podcast is our podcast would not exist or be good if it wasn't for him. You need a person who's a good host, and it's not easy. I can't host a podcast. JJ can host a podcast when we're not around and stuff, but these guys aren't. Mark.
I see a lot of shaking heads over and off camera. A lot of shaking heads.
He's one of the best podcast hosts I think in existence. And so to have that, so I need somebody like that to pull it out of me, because I'm not somebody who's going to offer up, because I don't know what's interesting to other people about the work we did. We were buried in that game and every game we work on for months at a time, super down. I mean, Roy literally probably played it thousands of hours working on it.
Let's do it right now, Roy.
Roy, come on,
get over here.
Open. Come on over.
Nier deep dive. We're
Do
going.
you have a one-sentence summation of the brilliance of Nier Automata that you can convey? Okay, great.
In the best, and he means that in the most best
The
positive
creator
way
needs
possible.
help if you couldn't quite hear
But
that.
we should do that. Maybe when and if I actually play through that game. Oh, here we have the eye rollers and the head shakers.
They're walking through for the video version of the podcast.
Here now, but we should do that. I would really like to do that. So maybe if and when I can play through that,
Sure.
we can actually do that.
It'd
I mean,
be a great time.
that's still good to hear that that kind of feedback.
Yeah. I also personally have a problem where, a lot of times
All right, bye.
I won't do something.
There you go.
If I like can't do it, like feel like I can't do it perfectly, which is a stupid reason not to do something, but because of that I'm like, so in my mind it's like, oh well, we should only do that if we can have Yoko-san on himself or whatever, but that's actually a lot more
I think this
work
is the
than
reason
it,
that
you know.
Resident Evil episode hasn't happened for years
That
and
is
years.
that is
You had Tim
exactly.
Turry in town, who's now
That's
marketing
true.
for all of Resident Evil and
That's
didn't
true.
take advantage of
So
it.
you just let's
Bad timing.
You brought
Yeah.
that up, so let's
Yeah,
talk
let's
about
do
it.
it.
So we had a RE retrospective, pretend the R and the E are capitalized very cleverly, and where we started going through Resident Evil games one by one.
Yeah.
We made it through the first half. This got to be 3, maybe 4 years ago now. I think it was before 6 launched. I think actually it was when 6 launched. Yeah.
But you cut it off at what, 4? Is that right? Or 3?
Yeah, and I think we cut it off at 3. I think we
Okay.
cut it off maybe before Code Veronica, or maybe it was after that. But it's been so long, I don't even remember. But and now I'm starting to think like, we need to go back and do it even more properly. But it's become this big thing, like John is talking about, just in my imagination, because now we have like Tim Turry, friend of the show,
That's right.
and friend of our show, who's like, he could be on it. He was inside it. He could talk about it.
Jump at that
No,
opportunity.
we've already talked about it.
Okay,
he
good,
was
good,
like
good.
offering, like, let's let it happen here. We have another friend of the show, like Pete Fabiano, who works at Capcom, who like maybe we could work it out that he could be on it. So it's like
He's in the game too.
We have to. He's is he Chauncey? No, Chauncey is the name of the cameraman.
Oh, I forgot his character's name.
He's the
in
first guy
game.
that you see in Kitchen. He's the
Okay.
face that you see. Anyway, so now it's like, what are this happens? Yeah, this is always like this every day. So now it's like, what are we going to? We can't do this until everything is all lined up and it's
But if you
all
just
right
keep waiting
and
for that
perfect and
perfect
whatever.
opportunity, I mean, it's
Right,
never going to
of
come.
course. Well, someday it's going to come, but yeah, the chances of it actually happening anytime soon are low.
But I
Yeah.
mean, the core of it is you're a perfectionist when it comes to this type of stuff.
Well, that makes me sound like it's a good thing. It's not. It's more like my weird personality quirks are such that like I don't want to do something unless I feel we can really do it 100%, and I that's not a good attitude to have. I think it's better. I think I've gotten much better about it over the years. Like we do a lot more stuff now where we're just like, well, whatever, let's just do the best we can.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
never going to be as good as we could have if we had all the time to do it, and that's fine. But of course, there is like a certain level of quality we want to hit. Like it's just like we come from the media background. We always wanted to do the best at the work we did. Like when
Right.
we were doing that, we're very competitive, minded people. I would say both of us, and so it's just one of those things.
I mean, I think it goes back to what I was joking kind of earlier when I was talking about like Patreon and like that kind of shit. But one of the things that we do with the podcast, we're like, oh man, if we ever, because we're like getting news last minute and we miss some news sometimes, and we joke about like, oh, none of us have played this game that we really wanted to talk
Yeah.
about. But it's like, if we could justify it and be like, you know what, no, this is for the podcast. The podcast not taking a second seat to my job because it has to, because I get fucking paid for my job,
right.
then that could open up. I mean, we've started talking about things recently. It was like, we have a crazy opportunity here. We live in Japan. We're exposed to a lot of these old creators. I mean, we're friends with a lot of these creators who
Yeah.
have a lot of stories that have not been told, that are kind of just now starting to get told in a lot of different ways, which is great. But it's like, maybe if we actually dedicated time towards this, it could be something even better. So I
Just
don't
have
want
like a developer interview series, that type of thing.
That might have been something we talked about.
Yeah,
Or,
I mean, you have no idea. If you look at we have. So first of all, we even took us like 3 years to start the podcast from when we like said we wanted to do a podcast. At least 2
That's a
years.
good point.
We're
Yeah.
we're gonna do a podcast, and it literally took like 2 years to get it off the ground. And that was like the same thing. Is like we just had to wait for the timing. We had to figure it out. We wanted to do it right. But it's like at that time and ever since then, we've also come up with like long lists of things we want to do that we're pretty sure no one else can do.
Yeah.
Therefore, we should do because we can offer stuff that people are interested in because that's the whole point. But yeah, it's just a matter of time and stuff. So like, I don't want to use the word monetize, or whatever, but like if there is some way to sort of like make it slightly more worth our while to be able to spend extra time on it and not take away from the work that we are supposed to be doing.
Basically,
it's like reading comments are great, but it's
Right.
detracting from a project.
Let me phrase it another way. I just give me an excuse to tell my wife and like just that I'm like, hey, no, listen, this is work now.
Yeah,
I'm not.
yeah.
I'm working here.
Put money in the bank.
But so, like, honestly, like everything we do, it would only be something if people are interested and if we get feedback that people like it. So, like, I don't like the second half of the Resident Evil podcast. Like, I think it's going to happen. I want to try it out.
Be Kickstarter
We'll
is what he's
see.
saying.
But ultimately, yeah, no. Ultimately, like, I want to hear from people, I guess, if it's something that they're interested in and stuff like that. So,
well, do you want to talk about just building up those Japanese relationships throughout the years that would make this, potential interview series or whatever, just the connections you have,
right,
valuable to the wider community? Because it seems like you guys have been here for how long now in Japan?
I've been here like 8 years.
And I'm going on 17.
Holy cow. And I remember you told a story a while ago on the podcast that was just fantastic and kind of encapsulates a lot. We were talking about, like, you're in your young 20s and you're just getting drinks and suddenly somebody introduces somebody across the table. It's like, oh, this is the creator of Contra, by the way. And it's like, what? I don't even know that dude's name, but I have 1,000 questions.
That was one of my first, oh my God, Japan is amazing moments. Like, these things happen. And it's happened many times since then, too. But yeah, that happened
and that
early
magic
on.
is still happening now, do you think?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the magic has worn off to some degree because a lot of these people we've come to know over the years. But I think the fact that you can still basically be out on the street and bump into somebody super. I was at a place. There's this like place where people go who work in the game industry a lot, and I was there a couple of weeks ago, and like Aonuma walked in, the Zelda producer, and it's like things like that will happen because it's a small country, small city, and especially a small industry. Yeah. So in that sense, yeah, that still happens. But I would say, the magic is not when you're like 20 years old and you meet the guy who made Contra, like your eyes are gonna pop out of your head or whatever.
Yeah, it's also changed, like, since we started coming here. I mean, in the last 20 years, there used to be, just to pull out an example, like at Nintendo, there still are a lot of guys who, like, none of us don't even know their names, and they've directed, like, really great, famous games. But I think over the last, especially 10 years, you've started to see them come out and get their names known and stuff like that. And I was like, oh yeah, this is the guy who did all those Mario games. It wasn't just a lot of it's directs, a lot of it's E3 interviews and who they put out. I mean, if you all of those things, but like there's much more knowledge now about, like, oh yeah, this guy has done this, and this. He directed that stuff. Yeah. Iwata Asks.
That's true.
Was a huge part of that. And I was like, wait, that guy did this? Like, what? Like, this guy there be fucking statues of this guy, like, all over the place. This guy's amazing, and he worked on that game too, and whatever. So Nintendo's always the example I use, but it's not just Nintendo. It's like your Contra guy's example. Like, there are still those guys out there, guys and girls, and they've get more and more exposure these days, and there's more and more knowledge out there just because there is in general in the industry, and the language barriers are kind of slowly going down, but there is still a ton of stuff that you only have access to actually being here in Japan and knowing people who know people, which, as I'm sure I mean, you have the Game Informer card that you can play,
nice,
which gets you a lot of interviews, and like I have to say, you have a great show. But I feel like it's not. But I feel like it's not publicized enough. I feel like I just happen on this stuff, and I'm like, holy shit! Like, I can't. They like talk to this guy, and this is a great interview, like a really, really good, like, honest interview or whatever. But it's not like front page news. I don't see everybody like tweeting about it. I don't see it on like the front page of NeoGAF.
We like to stay underground. Yeah, we don't go for that NeoGAF crowd. No, it's great whenever NeoGAF picks up on it. It's always fantastic. Yeah, right. But I just don't know if enough people.
We don't want to be too cool.
Yeah, exactly. But
are you saying NeoGAF is like the pinnacle of cool? Is like the hippest?
Of course it is.
That makes my life complete whenever NeoGAF picks up like a cover story feature, because I go on a lot of the cover stories as the video editor and stuff. And whenever they pick up,
your videos are fucking awesome too. I mean, thanks. I'm a fan of your video work. Yeah,
but no, I mean a lot of nice comments are great, but it doesn't mean something until I think NeoGAF and the recognition. Like why
that is true. That is true.
Unironically, I still
ultimate-
measure NeoGAF as like people. A lot of people, well, I'll see a lot of people dog NeoGAF or whatever, and I'm like, and they're like, oh, that's just NeoGAF. It's like, no, that's actually pretty much the core of what like the
I agree.
for
There
these
for like the
things
core
I
representation.
agree.
is ground zero.
I agree 100%. Like there is actually I don't even think of like a NeoGAF as like, oh, this is like NeoGAF's opinion about something or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, that's the industry. I mean, it's the industry and it's
Yep.
fans mixed into it too.
Yeah.
But like this is what by and large, with very few exceptions, like this is what kind of the like hardcore tastemakers are thinking of whatever it is that they're talking about. So when I'm joking about though is like, I don't think of that as cool as the same thing as like, I do think NeoGAF is cool. Please don't like dox me, NeoGAF. I guess that's what I'm saying actually.
No, just to return
Don't
to some ass
swat me,
kissing,
bro.
like, Kyle, this involves you a little bit too. But when in January we were at the Switch event and we filmed some interviews with Miyamoto, we did like a rapid fire thing, and I tweeted at you, John, saying like, seriously, I wanted your approval. I hope you would enjoy this.
No,
and,
it was awesome. Yeah,
And you made a joke where you're just like, oh yeah, I'm sure that's running through your mind. I swear to God, that's all I was thinking of. It's connected to like the NeoGAF approval. It's like, God, I hope John and like the old school fans of Japan are
That's
okay
awesome.
with these questions.
Was that the one where you did the where was Aonuma and Miyamoto sitting down?
Yeah, with the 2D Metroid joke.
That's
and all
right,
that
which
stuff.
came home to roost.
That cup joke with 2D Metroid, that was all Hansen.
Oh, thanks. I was very proud
That
of
was
that.
awesome.
I
Let everyone know.
wanted to retire it, just do the George Costanza, like, I'm out! Yeah. You pulled off the cup joke with Miyamoto, 2D Metroid, I'm good.
All you
they
have to
delivered
do, the thing is, I mean, there's a very limited number of things, like, you know, Mother 3, next Zelda game, like, there's these bunch of topics. All you have to do is hit them all,
It's
and
true.
one of them is going to pay off. I mean, they're all going to pay off sooner or later.
Sooner or
Like, it might
later.
just be years. That's why, like, these people always get me to make predictions, and they're like, you know, their predictions are like, Nintendo has a new Mario game in the works, and then it's like 5 years later, some new Mario. I told you, I told you. It's like, oh, yeah, like really. I'm not gonna name any names or whatever, but yeah, it's not the name. I'm not talking about the people you actually think. I'm not Nintendo specifically, but just like industry watchers.
Outside of that, yeah. I mean, with the Miyamoto thing and that cup thing, he even remembered that at E3, which is nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like we interviewed him again, and I think we're asking about like Virtual Console on Switch or something.
Yes.
And he's like, "Oh, why don't you get your cups out? Maybe I'll tell you."
Oh, nice.
Like, oh, the fact that he remembered that and had a good time with that, like that is enough.
Hey,
for
so
me,
what's
man.
going on with the Virtual Console on the Switch?
I mean, I don't know
good
anything more
question.
than you guys
Come
do.
on.
I figured
No-
you guys
nobody's
have to be in
listening.
the
Come
know.
on.
The print media is supposed to be where all the last.
Yeah,
resource
this
for
isn't
all
coming out until
information.
August. You can tell us.
Well,
I
I,
thought,
guess Miyamoto needs us to play a cup game with him, and then he'll set it up, because I'm guessing he's the one that presses the switch, right?
Yeah.
You're only a
Literally.
2-3 hour train ride away, so you guys can make this happen.
Do you guys?
Get us some cups.
Is it as satisfying as we think it is to be in the heart of Tokyo, to be connected to all these Japanese legends? Has the fanboyism just stayed strong with you guys throughout all the years?
I think so. I'm just gonna say yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we still live here.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
don't.
reason.
There is a point where it doesn't feel like fanboyism anymore because we've really become friends with some of these people.
Yeah.
Some of these good friends. I mean, some of them are like people we hang out with on the regular now and stuff. And so, but I actually felt that way back in our media days too. I think one of the reasons we at EGM at the time got along with a lot of game companies is because we didn't treat them like legendary, like golden whatever gods. We just were like, hey, let's hang out and talk and get to know each other, sort of thing. And like that's our approach out here too. But that said, like
Yeah, I never brought stuff in to have people sign it or
I
anything
hate that.
like that.
Yeah,
Did you guys do that?
No. Well, you made an
I would-
exception recently.
I would, if I was going to do a giveaway or something like that, I would
That's exactly what it is.
absolutely
Recently,
do
we made
that.
an exception for Akihiro Hino, and I'm sure I butchered his
The level
first
5
name from
guy,
level
yeah.
5. Yeah, because like our entire community with Game Informer is centered around the game Overblood, the PlayStation 1 survival horror, just garbage game.
Yeah.
And Hino was a programmer on 1, and he directed 2.
What?
Whoa,
I didn't know that.
Yep. So we
How did
talked to him
you-
about that.
what?
And had him sign a copy of it so we can auction
Oh
off for
my
Extra
God.
Life this year.
That's cool.
That's
cool.
amazing.
Yeah, and I think his exact quote was, "Who would ever pay money for this old crappy game? Like, what the hell?"
No, see that's not what I'm talking about though. That's a different
Yeah.
thing if you're doing it for those reasons. But I do think like as press, you want to meet those people on like equal. Hey, I'm a professional. Even though it makes sense that you'd be a fan of their games. But anyway,
Well, do you feel like it takes that Western edge to come out to kind of bring up that enthusiasm? Are there Japanese podcasts over here that you guys listen to where they are trying to go for the same vibe of just trying to tap into the brilliance over here for development?
I actually have tried at different times looking for Japanese language game industry podcasts, and I've mostly been disappointed. Like Kojima used to do,
That's right,
an interesting one that was interesting, talking about. I mean, in his YouTube, you can kind of see it too, the things that he's interested in, and you got insight into him and Koji Pro.
And you think Ryan Payton got that ball rolling?
Well, and before that, and then there was the English language one that
Yeah.
friend of the show Ryan Payton did, which was also excellent. But there was also a really good Monster Hunter podcast that came out regularly, and they would talk to like lots of different interesting people and celebrities and lots of different topics and stuff like that. But just for general gaming podcasts, I've actually been pretty disappointed. There's like some retro ones that I would find and listen to, but they either don't last long or they're like they're total hobbyists, which is fine. But it's like I'm looking for a few like big definitive like ones that go deep with different creators and stuff like that, and I don't feel like, and it could just be total ignorance, and podcast community could have changed in the last 6 months, but there was like Famitsu Wave there for a little while, but there was nobody that was like, oh man, like finally we have a gold standard. I mean, there's so much to talk about.
Yeah,
I don't
why do you
think
think
the
that is,
industry,
then?
but
Well, I don't think. So first of all, just to back up, I'm not much of a podcast person at all. I don't really listen to them that often, so I don't know what's really good or not in Japan. I have listened to a few, but they were like fan run. But like the media in Japan is a little bit more. It's just different from the West. I'm not. It's not a critique, but it's like it's a little more controlled. The information that gets out is kind of controlled by the publisher, so you're not going to find like stuff with deep critical thinking. About like whether a game is good or not, at least from like a Japanese media. So I think what you have to find is, like Mark was saying, like stuff that's either done by a developer where they're talking about their experiences, or just like people who actually aren't in the industry but just know their and that's just hard to find, I feel like.
But I would hope that like some ex media guys who have all the contacts and whatever, that would have people that would come on that would trust them to do it, would sound like something would come out of there.
It's
but
just not that common here though, because of
Nah,
how
it's true,
you don't want to like burn those bridges and everything else.
It's a weird thing. Like the with some exceptions, like there's not how do I put this, like with movies like thumbs up, thumbs down, Siskel and Ebert thing, and with like restaurants, and there are things like Yelp and things that have come along recently where people are rating restaurants and stuff, but there's not a lot of like big media outlets that are true objective reviewing things, like in any industry, but like in the game industry especially recently, there's not really like, there's no Japanese reviews. Like let's go back to NeoGAF.
Sure.
NeoGAF very rarely will post like, here's the new Famitsu scores or whatever, right? Because it's kind of an acknowledgement that they don't necessarily mean much.
It's just 39 out of 40 for everything. I think like Final Fantasy 12 got like a 40 out of 40, and I was like, this is gonna be the best Final Fantasy ever. And then I dove in and was like,
they rate kind of high, like is the general thing. Whereas it used to be, if Famitsu gave something a 10, that it was actually like news, and then it really used to be like, if you look back at Famitsu's old reviews from like the late 80s,
5s and stuff.
Yeah, there's like really great classic games that their scale, they really were using the whole scale. It was really rough.
I think with the maturing of the industry here, though, like they and most other outlets have figured out, and this isn't a bad thing, it's just maybe a cultural thing, but it's a thing. It's like it doesn't really pay to be super harsh on games in the media, because a lot of the people who buy these magazines are enthusiasts to begin with, and so they just want to get excited about the things they're reading about. You know what I mean? So I used to, a while ago, I used to be like, oh man, Famitsu sellout, what are they doing, blah blah blah. But now I kind of get it, and it doesn't bother me that much anymore. Do
they still feel like a black box to you? Do you know people who work at Famitsu? It's just this nebulous concept for us, but.
Oh well, we know people there very well, because we they cover our games when we like publish stuff in Japan and stuff.
Famitsu is still like a big weekly video game magazine which covers like tons of stuff. It's still like a great source of information and stuff like that. My like kind of broader topic was like not even just games, but just Japan in general. Like the critical review, I don't know what to call it, like critical review culture or something like that, is not the same here as it is elsewhere. It's more like kind of what John said. Instead of a magazine or a website, which is like, we're going to rate all of the, the restaurants in Shibuya or something. It'll be a magazine that's like, these are the best restaurants in Shibuya. And like, some of them might have just paid their way to get in there, and it's always kind of nebulous and it's unclear or whatever. But there's not this big expectation of like, impartial, objective, like review, review sites or whatever. Like you don't have TV shows with like cooking TV shows or something where people try restaurants and are like, nah, I don't like it. It wasn't very good or whatever.
Everything tastes amazing.
Yeah.
On Japanese
Does it
TV.
just come from wanting to be courteous and nice, and that's just embedded in the culture?
I wouldn't even presume enough to know about.
I'm kind of the same boat.
Yeah?
Like I think
where it would come from.
in the past I might have said yes, but now that I've been here long enough, I kind of feel like I don't actually know for sure why exactly it's that way, but it certainly is that way.
Like the relationship between the media and what they cover here is totally different from the government on down, and that's definitely true with the game industry. I mean, this is well known all over the place, but you guys have probably had to deal with this too. It's like they expect the questions beforehand. Sometimes they'll expect to see the article before it goes to print, and like they want to make suggestions or whatever. And usually they understand now, especially that the Western press doesn't work that way, but it does work that way here. And so, it's that way even with government agencies and stuff like that. It is different, I guess. Maybe there's not like the tradition of like a free, impartial press as much as there is.
Yeah,
where we come from,
media
but
here is like a PR vehicle as opposed to like a critical analysis vehicle, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever. But that's just
by and
it's
large,
just,
right?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, the ones that are critical that do give critical analysis usually don't get super popular because they're not gonna get access to everything because companies don't like that.
Yeah.
So
And
that's fine. Like that's how it is here. It's one of those things where it's just like, it used to really burn me deep down in my soul coming from the Western press, but like now I'm kind of like, well, I guess it's just a different culture and that's how it is, and it's not.
And you just have to celebrate. I mean, it's not the most critical, but celebrate those times where it does feel like, oh, there's actually information coming out of here. Like Iwata asked, like you mentioned earlier.
Oh
just
yeah,
an amazing treasure trove now of Nintendo information. Like it rivals every interview Nintendo's ever done. I mean, the collection there is insane.
And that's stuff that just would die with people if it didn't come out in that way, because that's another thing. Like people are really reticent even after they leave a company to talk about things here because there's not that accepted standard too, whereas like in America, like people have left a company, people bounce around different companies a lot more, people change jobs more, and people are much more free of talking about what was right and wrong with their old companies, and people at the old companies are much more understanding of like, well, that guy left, he can say whatever he wants now, but that really doesn't happen here.
Yeah, the industry, like, make no mistake, the industry here would be way worse off if like Famitsu didn't exist. Like the good by far outweighs the bad. I mean, there are like without Famitsu, they're like the core, I feel like, of the Japanese game industry. They're like all the information kind of comes and goes from there, and like they know everybody.
They're the game informer of the Japanese
That's
industry.
a very
perfect.
perfect.
Very
Yeah,
sweet.
I would say,
Enough said.
I'm actually curious though, just to turn around real quick on you guys. Like, what about the YouTuber? Let me just give you the YouTuber question.
Yeah, the classic YouTuber question.
How do you deal with?
It's fascinating. Just the rise of YouTube in general. You mean?
Well, just I mean, how you guys cover games. You have to like constantly be growing and adapting. And over the last 5-6 years, especially, the rise of the YouTuber and YouTuber reviews and YouTuber the rules they have and don't have about what they do and don't do.
Yeah.
Like, how do you stay relevant? What do you like take? What do you leave behind?
I think it's tricky even for Game Informer to shift to the online space. We're maybe a little bit later to the game than most, in like a big fully featured way. And so then right when we caught up to speed with that, then it's like, oh, by the way, it's the rise of YouTube. So it gets tough, and it becomes that balance of, well, what do we hire for, right? And I'm not a part of this in general outside of the video department, which is very small. But like, what do we hire for? We want good writers for the magazine. Are they going to be good on podcasts and video? We'll see. It's just kind of a crapshoot, but we have not yet reached that point yet where it's like, let's hire specific personalities that'll be great on video and come through.
Right.
'Cause when do you make that full transition? Because it's like, well, print's still priority.
Right.
Right. So it's tricky.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, I was hired like part of the reason I think I got the job was because I did have video editing experience.
Yeah, you made an Invisimals YouTube review.
Yeah, for
Oh.
Games Radar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I know my way
Nice.
around Final Cut, and I think
Yeah.
that helped me get in the door. But
Right.
since it's only in the last like 2 years that I've actually gotten back into the editing room to edit like small things here
That's
and there.
true.
I mean, for us, it's just a matter of experimentation and seeing what sticks to the wall. You know,
What do you
And
guys
then
find is popular? Give me like just in the last year.
exclusive
Oh, God.
gameplay footage.
If
For
you
real?
have new
Absolutely,
gameplay
yeah.
footage, new exclusive gameplay footage, if you can work that in any way into the
Oh,
headline,
okay.
and it's true
Yeah.
on YouTube, I mean, it'll just skyrocket. I mean, there's just weird anomalies where we did a Hellblade cover story recently, and that Hellblade gameplay is one of the biggest of the year for 2017 so far for us on YouTube. It's like, man, like I'm interested in that game. I never thought that so many people would gravitate towards that.
Remind me what game Hellblade is.
Oh, it's Ninja Theory's game that they're publishing on
right.
their own.
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
It
yes.
feels like a Kickstarter, but it's not a Kickstarter from like 3 years ago.
Is that the
They've
sort of
been
Heavenly
cranking
Sword,
away.
like spiritual successor?
Yeah, there's some debate within the team about whether or not to call it a spiritual successor because
Sure.
it's really not like Heavenly Sword, but they're
Sure.
like, oh, kind of the independent spirit. It reminds us of Heavenly Sword, so they say
Okay, that makes sense that there would be a load of people excited about that. But
Yeah.
interesting.
but outside of that, it's really unpredictable. It's whatever gets caught up in the YouTube. I just look at a lot of YouTube stats, so it's kind of the YouTube algorithm.
yeah.
Trade wins, like whatever is
How
current
do
at that
you
moment.
really?
It's just experimentation.
It's
like
tough.
just trying new stuff. And
I mean, Pokemon Go was big for us last year, where we got in early with like, hey, here's how to catch Pikachu as a starter. And it's like, oh, that took off like crazy. Let's do more Pokemon Go stuff, and then
Right.
it just slowly tails
Didn't
off.
do
It's like,
anything.
well, I don't know.
Can I give you some advice on
Please
how to
do.
make it on YouTube?
Yeah.
As somebody who watches a lot of YouTube, who's
Please.
like never made a. Actually, I have one YouTube video that has like over 300,000 views. I don't know
What is it? Come on.
It was from
It was
a
level
level
5
5.
thing, right?
Yeah,
I
they
remember
have
that.
this yearly event, and it was Professor Layton meets when they did the crossover game with
Phoenix Wright.
Phoenix Wright and Professor Layton. I think that's what it was. Anyway,
Yeah.
with when you have your video thumbnail,
Yeah.
just whatever the fucking video says, it doesn't make any difference. Whatever the video is, whatever it says, whatever. And this is not the obvious stuff like, hey, have like, boobs on it or whatever, because that is obvious. But circle something
Totally.
in
We've
red and a
done
fucking
it.
red arrow pointing at it.
Yep.
It
true.
doesn't matter. I mean, it drives me insane
It
because
works.
it does, even on me, and I
Totally.
even know it. And it's like, wait, it's like,
It'll say like the one detail you never noticed about Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
It's like, I couldn't
and it's
possibly.
pointed
nothing's
at a
slipping
Star
by
Destroyer. It's
me.
like, wait, what? There's nothing with the Star Destroyer. And you watch
Yeah.
the whole video, and there was nothing
Yeah.
with that fucking Star Destroyer. They literally just took a fucking random still, put a circle on it, and an arrow
We've
at
done
it.
that. We had the lore master and assistant game director for Overwatch walk us through one of the new
the lore master. Does
Lo-
that, like, say that on
fascinating
his
role.
card?
Yeah, pretty
That
close to it.
is
Walk us through one of the new
amazing.
Overwatch maps, and it's like, hey, the secrets behind this new Overwatch map. The only time I've ever tried that red circle thing. 'Cause I
Yes.
think it applies here.
Yeah.
No one was interested.
What? And you had Overwatch in the fucking title too?
Yes.
So
Yes.
does this come from
Jesus.
experience? Your advice here?
Yes.
You had a red circle and an arrow on
No,
your...
it's from what I've done, my own behavior.
Oh,
right?
okay.
But
Yeah, totally.
also what I've noticed as the like.
I think the broader
Videos getting
concept that
views.
we've tried to figure out, and it's very basic, it's probably YouTube 101, is just people want to know that they're going to get something out of that video. They want to know from the headline and the thumbnail, if I click this video, I'll leave
That's why-
improved and more
yeah.
knowledable in this very
That's
specific
why it's
way.
10 things about this,
Totally.
50 things about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always the number.
I like it. You're still looking at this. Is this an
Oh, yeah.
aspect of your job here at Enhanced Games?
I mean, it's part of it just to stay up on what's going on in the game industry. But I mean, it's just me, like, what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what I'm interested in. It's what I will watch. I mean, I was watching tons of. Did you guys see much of Summer Games Done Quick?
Yeah, it's in St. Paul.
Minneapolis.
Yeah, that's
St.
right.
Paul,
It was.
right,
It
yeah.
was.
I
this
didn't go this
time.
year. I've gone the last couple of years, but I watched like Portal speedrun a couple here and there.
Okay,
but yeah.
cool. Yeah. I've even started watching the shit, like, gone down some dark YouTube, like the show where they eat hot wings. They they eat like 10 increasingly hot wings while they interview a guy.
Well, the Hot Pepper Gaming.
It's called Hot Ones. No.
No, this
It's
is
not
like
gaming
the-
related.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Like, I do
You're
watch
just watching people eat wings.
a shitload of gaming related stuff, but it's an interview show with celebrities where they eat increasingly hot wings.
That's a good idea.
It's
To be fair, that description, I know exactly what I'm getting out of it. I want more of it.
so
yeah.
not only is it that I think, and maybe people talk about this in the internet. I've never admitted this or talked to another human being about this show, so maybe people will be like, yeah, duh. The guy who interviews people is one of the best interviewers.
Really?
Yes, he really. I don't even know his name. He really digs shit out where people are like, how did you know that? No, seriously, like how did you know that? But he responds to what's going on in the questions. Plus, the hot wings are some kind of fucking truth serum because people are so freaked out.
They're distracted.
And they're completely distracted.
Oh, maybe they just want to get through it too.
And there's that is in the background is like, are you going to quit? Because they have like a Scoville level, which is how hot things are.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know about that.
That sounds really interesting. I mean, I would not only to watch, but to be a part of.
So,
I would
Dorito
Well,
hot
hold on.
ones.
The important
Check it out.
question is there a red circle on the thumbnails pointing to the wings?
That's the amazing thing. There's not, and yet I still started
Mystery.
watching it somehow.
YouTube is still an enigma.
The Key and Peele one is a good one to start off on because it's hilarious. But the thing that really won me over is Guy Fieri. His one like convinced me that he is actually a good guy.
Really?
Yes, a
He was
good
just funny
good guy. I mean, completely like down to earth. Completely knows how he's seen, what he is, and just really apparently doesn't give a shit. It's just like living his life and being himself and like watch it. And if you don't come away with like begrudging respect for Guy Fieri, like I will be surprised. I will not
change the way you pronounce
10
his
hot
last
wings.
name.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
No. We've already talked too long about the hot wing things,
back
but
to your guys' specialty. I mean, since you left the press in general, what would you say is like your proudest accomplishment? What is the most exciting period there?
Well, I mean, that's easy for me because I think it would be just getting this crazy company up and running and actually still going after. We're almost 12 years old now. And
Congratulations, man.
I've gotten to sort of execute my like personal childhood fantasies by like being able to work on like Fire Emblem or Dragon Quest or like Metal Gear, which is mostly Mark. But like we've got to work on all these different franchises that were really important to us, and that to me was like constantly find ourselves doing things where I'm like, wow, this is the coolest thing we ever did, or wow, this is something like if I could just go back and talk to my kid self, he would like shit his pants or whatever. Like
exactly,
it's like unbelievable that these things are happening to us and we're being able to be part of them. And then it's like, well, okay, let's just find out how to treat this with the utmost respect and do it right and make sure the fans are proud and blah blah blah. But like doing it, being able to do all that is basically, for me, is like why we're still doing it, because we work really hard. I mean, like I work crazy hours sometimes to get stuff done here, and like, you know, all the guys here put in, you know, a lot of work on some stuff that probably doesn't really, the reward may not necessarily be like worth the amount of time and effort that goes into it, but I mean, the like financial reward, but the reward is more about doing something that we really believe in and that fans are really happy about, and like that really gets me excited. That came back from my EGM days. Like I just got off on like fans writing letters to us and like appreciating our reviews and stuff like that. Like I love that. I love being able to interact with other people who like me just love games and like get something out of that, you know. That's really cool.
When you land a project like that, is that the satisfying moment when you get that email or that conversation of, hey, you're locked, you're going to be doing this, or is it when it actually ships?
That's a satisfying moment, but
Okay.
the far more satisfying moment is like finishing it and feeling proud of it, because you know, game development is a crazy web of things that a lot of people don't ever see, and sometimes there's crazy schedules and weird budgets and weird restrictions, and there's just that weird savant guy who's really hard to work with or whatever, and you know, like a lot of stuff comes together that a lot of stuff comes up that makes it difficult to work on these games. And so it's when it gets done and you can look back on it and feel proud of it that you're like, that's when you go out and have drinks and celebrate, you know, not so much when you get the project. Right,
when it lands you can actually read comments about Nier Automata and be like, oh, people are actually digging this.
I mean, this guy right here is like responsible for the president's tagline. He came up with it years before Trump did.
Oh, please go ahead, sir.
I need to go back and actually find out. So if
that was us or
no. Well, it was us, but at what level it happened?
Sure.
So Metal Gear Rising, the final boss battle. He has
Senator Armstrong, please.
There you go. We're gonna make America great again. So I
literally word for word
says it. Yeah.
In localization, you can see, because there's usually like columns in an Excel or whatever. Like, okay, here's what the translation was, here's what the edit was, here's what the second edit, here's what the pass was. So I need to see at what phase, like exactly where it appeared to know exactly who to give credit to, because I don't know if it was me
probably have that. We
or
got to go back and
Brian
find that.
Gray. Yeah, I've been meaning to do that actually, but
what was that project like in general for you? Was it exciting? Just
it
to
was
land
amazing.
Metal Gear?
It was fun as hell. Yeah, because it was like a Metal Gear ass Metal Gear. You know, it was like, you know what? Let's not even pretend like we're gonna
just kind of Metal Gear is you have the entire
go
world. It's
balls
canonical,
out. Yeah.
but fuck it, no one cares.
I mean, it was yeah. I mean, and we took great pains to still ground it as much as it should be grounded.
Yeah,
you know, so like it's not. So it's within itself. It believes what's going on, but like, yeah, you're not going to describe it to somebody. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, like I think like great action movies like a Die Hard or Predator or a Commando. Well, I don't know if I'd include Commando, but like Aliens
fun,
or whatever.
sure,
Like they need that. They're going to be a fun roller coaster ride and a little bit over the top, but they have to have their own internal logic, or it's just like silly, or if it's like winking at itself all the time, it's just annoying and whatever. But that was definitely like getting to write, like building off of what John was saying, like all these people that you've heard about or read about or grew up with their games.
Yeah.
Pretty much anybody at Nintendo, but like Kojima, Igarashi, Inafune, Mizuguchi. I mean, these people who now, we're able to talk with, work with, go out with, sometimes, you know, become friends with, and whatever. That it's a crazy honor, and that I couldn't pick just like one project, but like all of those games. I mean, like writing dialogue for Metal Gear just like
crazy.
was really nuts,
And having the Japanese team go back and like change their Japanese to match what you
Oh,
wrote,
yeah,
which
and
they
was
really-
cool.
they
We did
really-
that a bunch on that game.
they really trusted us. I mean, they really trusted us. It was a very much a back and forth partnership.
Well, how'd you have to walk that line of, because you know fans are tearing that game apart for any lore details. Like there's the weird thing of like, okay, Raiden's family's living in New Zealand now.
Right, yeah.
There's, God help me out, there's like the DLC item that implies that Solid Snake's dead at this point. Like just dealing with those larger lore
Yeah,
issues.
that-
Did you have clear guidelines of don't touch on this, do touch on this?
Well, there was a lot of back and forth. Like
Yeah.
sometimes there would be like, is this saying this? I mean, ultimately they're the key holders and they're going to have the final say, and so they're like a nice safety net that you have under the things. But we've had, not that project, but we've had other projects. Actually, it was a Castlevania project, where we went back because, you know, part of the job is really hardcore researching this stuff and knowing this stuff, and we went back and it was like, actually, this person wasn't killed by Dracula's second wife or whatever. I can't remember who it was now, but it was like, you have it wrong in the original Japanese.
Based on the real story. That's right.
Yeah.
That happened. That came up with Judgment a bunch, the fighting game on Wii, right? Because it had all the characters and all the lore like mixed into one thing. And so there's a lot of research and a lot of like, that didn't really happen. And do you really want his name to be Dynasty and like all these different things?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So, and then with Metal Gear, it's absolutely like a balancing act, and I mean, it's easy because we were fans, so we can come at it. We don't have to like, I wonder what the fans are going to think about this or whatever. Like, we were able to have supreme confidence that's like, this is how, you know, this is who this character is. This is how he would react. This is how he would say this thing. That was the whole thing. Just like repeating those characters, doing the voices in your head that you've heard now, all the voice actors doing them and stuff like that. So, we did tons on that project. We didn't oversee the voice recording on that one, but we did do extensive rewrites and stuff like that, to the point where towards the end, especially that final Armstrong scene, we had a bunch of meetings back and forth where he was like, this is something where I think the English will lead and we will adapt to it, but I want you to know this is how the character is and this is how he thinks, and you're kind of going in this direction, and it should kind of be more like this. And I think I've talked about it before, but it was like Tyler Durden crossed with who was the like, it was like neoconservatism basically. It was just like a those two things mixed together, pushed totally out there. and that was basically Armstrong. And,
Do you feel like you had the most creative kind of leeway with Armstrong then, where you feel like this is where I'm making my big stamp on the game and pushing it in a different direction?
Not. It was definitely like the seeds of it were all there in the Japanese. It was just like, there's a million different ways to be like, no, I'm gonna, this is why I'm here to destroy the world, or what. I mean, there's just and that project they did give us a lot of leeway, because we said these games have been very well localized in the past, and so we can't just do a translation. You have to let us localize it and then give it back to you, and then you take a look at it and give us feedback, and we have to have this back and forth. And to their credit, they're like, that's what we want. And so we took a test. We took a test with them with Koji Pro. But they really liked what we did, and what we did in our test was here are your bones, but we got to make it Metal Gear, so here's what we're going to do with it.
Throw more talk about genes and. There's a Doomp joke. I remember in Metal Gear Rising. I'm actually playing through it again with a friend back.
Oh my god! Wow.
So it's all very fresh in my mind.
Yes.
I have a hyper specific question about Metal Gear Rising.
Let's see if I can remember.
All right. So Senator Armstrong at the end of the game.
Yes.
There's a line where he says, "I'm going to blow you away," and in my mind, I thought, God, is this a Sunset Riders reference? There's a Sunset Riders boss from Konami where he screams, "I'm gonna blow you away," and I thought, God, this would be the deepest cut from Mark. I don't know if you're a Sunset Riders fan.
There are some crazy deep cuts in that game to the point where I don't even remember them, and I would have to look back because I would put notes if I made a reference.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Legally, or what is that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's because the team is going to be looking it over, and so there's nothing that I don't want to sneak something in, and they're later they see the internet freak out and they're like, what you never even told us this was in there. So there's a lot of deep cuts in there. I mean, all the comments at the end when he looks on the internet, all those are actually the formatting was from NeoGAF. I don't know if they ended up using it or whatever, but we took the poster history and whatever. I just looked at NeoGAF and it's exactly that.
Also, our IRC nicknames.
That's right. The names are all people who worked on the game,
and there's all those comments. Our original IRC nicknames where we first met each other are among the commenters.
That's amazing.
But things like so I not to crush your dreams.
No.
If it is, it wasn't from me.
Okay.
If it was, it wasn't from me. It could have been, but it would have been from somebody else.
Sure.
But things like the Doom thing, I think every once in a while,
the classic Doom joke,
you'd get one where it was if you got something and they're like, oh, here's an acronym that spells out ass or something, and no one acknowledges the fact that the acronym is ASS. It's okay, we have to at least acknowledge this and move on.
And I feel like it was even a throwback, just to get really fucking nerdy here. It's a throwback to Metal Gear Solid 2, where I think Raiden at a certain point is did you say nerd when Campbell mentions a node? And it's just the most clumsy shit. I was yeah, sure, let's go with it.
There's tons of references and in-jokes and stuff that I don't even know if everybody has found all of them. Yeah. So, I mean, there's some obvious ones that everybody, including the reviewers, hit upon, but there's
the Ninja Turtles.
The one of them. Ninja. And there's a lot of deep cuts in there. But
so what about nowadays? What are you guys working on that you're really proud of? Undertale, right? That's a huge announcement for you guys.
Yeah, we're working on that now. As of the time we're recording this, we're wrapping up development on that, which is cool because we're developing it and publishing it.
How does that work? Is it your first time developing a game technically?
First time doing the full development. We've certainly helped out on certain aspects of projects before, but this time we're doing everything. We did the ports from the ground up on PS4 and Vita.
Does that require just hiring more people that are familiar with programming then?
We have one of our first employees was a super programmer, and so he doesn't work for us anymore, but he's working with us on this project.
Oh, cool.
He can do anything, and so he's doing this project together with us. It's turning out really well. We're almost done with that now.
Is that something you want to do more of in the future? Is get more hands on the project for the actual programming?
Well, if the opportunity makes sense, in this case, it was just another thing where it's this kind of needs to happen. We want to, we were localizing the game for Japan and just the PC game, and it was well, there's so much love into this in the original game and also being put into the localization and everything else. It's how do we get it into more Japanese gamers' hands? Because not a lot of people play PC here. I mean, there are PC gamers, but
relative to other territories.
Relative to elsewhere, it's not going to, even if it's super famous, it's not going to sell a gazillion copies here because, people don't all play PC games. And so, one thing we could do is put it on PS4 and Vita. So we had that conversation and that came to be. And then it's if we're going to do that, we might as well do it everywhere. And so now we're publishing it all around the world. And that's cool, but that's not like we're not like becoming a publisher or something. Like that's something that we'll do when it makes sense, and it's
it's something that's easy to manage. They just got to deal with Toby Fox himself, right? And that's pretty much it.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic when you said easy to manage. Toby's awesome, but being easy to manage a project.
Show where it started.
Oh yeah, no, but I mean when you're dealing with 3 different territories and 2 different platforms, plus a PC port, plus a Japanese localization, plus a whole lot of other shit, it's I definitely aged like 4 years in the last like 6 months, but you know, a lot of people are hard at work on it, and again, Toby's awesome. He's doing a ton of extra stuff on it to like make it feasible, because it would have been impossible otherwise. Early on, Mark helped out making that actually come to be, and JJ's been working his ass off on it. So that's kind of like our big thing right now. But you know, right after this, we're going back to working on a giant localization project, and we're really excited about that. And that's going to keep us busy for like the next 6 to 9 months. And you know, we finished Nier earlier in the year. We finished Fire Emblem, so we're kind of in between stuff right now. Like it'll probably be quiet for a little while, and then you'll start seeing games pop up that we worked on again.
We'll have another mysterious project blank on the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah, we have to come up with a new. We need more letters. We're running
code
out of letters.
names.
You got to run through them all.
But there's the podcast too. We want to, you know, we've been talking recently about like what we're going to do to make the podcast better or more interesting. So maybe look forward to something there. That involves more trying to be vague, because we don't actually know entirely ourselves, but we definitely both are like kind of like, okay, how do we take this?
There's a lot of stuff. We have a lot of ideas. There's a lot of just to sum up all that stuff that we talked about, probably too much already. We have a lot of ideas. We think we have a lot of opportunities being here in Japan that we want to actually take advantage of. We've thought about stuff for a long time. Now we're like, okay, what would it take for us to actually do that stuff? So hopefully we'll figure that out maybe sometime this year.
And then there's also, you know, Res Infinite.
For sure. Mark,
that's right. Yes. So as you listen to this, if not, I'm going to have you hold this until August 8th. Hopefully it has come out. 8 being the little infinity symbol.
Oh, of course.
We decided to not really talk about it. So if all went well, it was a surprise announcement on the 8th, only because, you know, we did launch Res Infinite on the PSVR last year. We got a great reception on PSVR. PSVR was awesome. Sony did fantastic for us. But now we got a ton of people who are like, yeah, I want to play it on my PC. Actually, one of the original ideas was to put Res on the PC to make it a little more timeless, because it's always gone on systems that have kind of gone away.
Interesting, yeah.
And so actually from the start, before there was even as much of an emphasis on VR, before we knew VR was going to be totally possible and the new level was going to be possible, one of the big goals was to put it on PC. So that's now happened. Hopefully it's a good port. We're probably patching it. I'm just going to apologize right now, because any PC game that comes out is like a nightmare with the amount of systems and stuff like that out there. But like we're testing it right now, and I've noticed things. I played Area X especially like a few hundred times, probably watched people play it over 1,000 times, and I was able to see things now because the resolution is higher. And we're able to do things higher textures, and
that's awesome.
And the frame rate is great on the PSVR version, but we're able to even have it be like the natural full frame rate.
It's got to be awesome just to dive into something you loved, like, you know, I enjoyed that game. Now you could not be deeper in the world of Res, and that is just your entire universe as your starting point.
And it's cool just working with Mizuguchi. Like he's exactly what he seems like. He's just like super chill, very into interesting, weird, fun, like new things, wants to be kind of like pushing the envelope, gives people a ton of freedom, but is very like protective of his fans and the Res franchise and what he thinks like I mean, he basically sees that kind of as his life's work, not Res specifically, but that kind of blurring the line, kind of like trying to push games, I guess, a little further, not to sound super pretentious, but like into other kind of realms different from just where they came from. But he also made Sega Rally, so like
Yeah,
I'm like sometimes I'm like, you know what? Maybe we should just fucking make an awesome racing game. Like you still have that DNA. I'm sure you still know those people in your Rolodex. That's not like teasing our next project or anything. That's not happening.
Just racing.
Yeah, no, that's not happening at all. But so hopefully that's awesome.
Kart.
Out on Oculus or Steam, and you can play it in 2D. This is the first time ever that Res is available on a PC. So
that's
like
awesome.
Just you can play it without the although Oculus just announced, I don't know if you saw this today, $399 for the Touch and the Rift, which is like $200 price drop. That's
crazy
cheap. It's just like summer only. But
you said just today. What you meant to say was about a month ago.
That's right. Yeah. They announced a month ago. So buy it now, along with Res Infinite viewers.
Kyle, what are
please.
you proud of? What should people buy?
What should people buy that I've worked on?
Yeah, please.
The latest issue of Game Informer magazine.
Hey, cool! Check out that
Pokemon feature.
Big old Pokemon feature.
Not
Check
this
it out.
cover, but
and not that this one's great too.
This
that you're
general
showing.
I like that one too.
But we got it. Cool. Hey, I have taken way too much of your time and equipment and general
not at
office
all.
environment.
Thank you guys.
So thank you so much.
Thank you seriously for
Thanks for
coming by. Next time, stay longer. Get some
Yes.
extra time, please.
We'll certainly try. But thanks again, and thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show. Be sure to tune in next Thursday, and we'll have another new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.